Hey YouTube, how is it going? I hope all is well. Oh joy, I have been a super busy boy. And yeah, that kind of rhymes. A lot has been going on. I believe it or not, I know I haven't done many videos. Part of it is just work. Been busy at work. After I got back from Sweden, I had a bunch of stuff to get caught up on. Once I got caught up on that, it was kind of try to get caught up on other stuff, and now here we are now, just kind of, doing what we do. Offset, pleasure. Spent electrons, pleasure. Thank you guys for coming in. We got a bunch to talk about today, although I'm going to try to make this semi-short. Not going to try to do like a 2-hour long, well, it might end up being that long, but I'm going to try not to make it a 2-hour long video. How's that? Bit of ground to cover. I did go to Sweden. Linus is his name. I said Linus like 100 times, not knowing. I finally got corrected on that, which is nice. So I got to meet Linus, and he has his amplifier now. Last I chatted with him a couple days. Oh, hey, there's Team YDNA. You and I got to talk too, buddy. You don't talk about me no more. No love for Luke over here. But yeah, I got to, the last time I talked with Linus, he is doing well. He's loving the amp. He said he's playing just about every day now, which is nice. So super excited about that. I am still in the process of making that video. It is going to be quite the task. I'm going to try to do it while I'm away on vacation this week. I am going to Tennessee again to visit with my in-laws and my brother-in-law, and we're going to do Christmas with the in-laws. I love my in-laws, so this is going to be a great little trip for sure. But my goal is to try to get that all done while I am there. There are 114 clips with about a total of 3 or 4 hours worth of media that I have to go through, and we did it with the 360 cam. So with the 360 cam, you have to, at least I have to do it all on a tablet or some other Mac type device, and render it down into something flat that we can use as video, and then edit all of those into something. I did kind of a test run the other day. I spent an hour and a half creating like whatever. I think through like 6 or 7 different snippets, and I ended up with like a 2 or 3 minute long video. It was pretty sad. And that was when I started realizing how much trouble I was going to be in getting this video out anytime soon. So that will happen though. It'll be in the next, hopefully, few weeks, probably after the first of the year, to be honest. It says, Sneaky Luke drops in with a handful of ice. Yeah. Means well every time, but he's rolling a budget dice. I'm not rolling any budget dice, let me tell you. We are spending nothing but money over here. Let me tell you, we spend a lot of money. Well, let's just go down the list of what I have been doing. You can kind of see the Cerberus back there. That has been getting some more work done on it. I put it together, everything was all good. And I had it in the cabinet, I was getting ready to ship it off, and I started doing some more testing. So as I was doing some testing, I went to switch back and forth between some of the channels, or some of the channel, and it would get stuck on channel 1 or 2 or something like that. Whatever it would do, it wouldn't switch the channels reliably. It would switch one half of it, but not the other half. There are 2 relays in there to make it all work. So that required me to get back in there and start doing some more work. Well, in the course of doing more work, I found another capacitor that had taken a dump. It was still noisier than I really would like it to be. But in either case, we're working through that. I have a plan. We're going to design my own switchboard. We're going to use some Vactrols. We're going to go a la SLO style and a Mesa Boogie style, I guess, if you will. So we're going to do that. But the cabinet is done. So the hardest part of the whole project is done. But I tried a couple different things, and I couldn't get anything that really worked. So I got a solid state relay, and while it does work and it is silent, it just doesn't work right. These aren't meant for audio, and it just, the resistances were wrong for what we had going on. I tried a couple of these other guys here. One of these took a shit on me already. I kind of duffed it. I I let a wire touch something it wasn't supposed to, and that took this one out. But I had enough, so we got all the relays in there that we need. And right now I have a different relay in there. Yeah, China. You can't not get them from China. It's the only place you can get the damn things. But I did get an optical switch. It's inside of the amp right now, so I don't have one to show you. But and it does work appropriately, but it still is noisy. So yeah, we're just gonna have to design our own and start from anew. What happened to my spanner? You know, I don't know. I don't know that you ever had one, to be honest, but you're cool enough. I will put you into a moderator mode. There we go. Save. All right. So we've been doing that. I have also finished another amp of mine that is off getting flogged right now. I have an electrical engineer friend who's a mean guitarist down the street. He's the one who broke in the Peacemaker for us. He's got 2 of my amps right now. He's been flogging away on one of my other... it's kind of evolved into something closer to like an AC50 or maybe... It's not quite a JTM 45, but it's like a JTM 50 or something like that. It has a solid or a tube rectifier in it. It's using EL34s. I changed the output transformer in it. I actually went with a cathode follower. We're going to do a video on cathode followers. I'm not a fan of them, so I really wanted to try to make this one work. Initially, when I first built it, at one point it did have a cathode follower. I didn't like it. Took it back out, and we kind of came full circle with it. More or less the goal was to try to force myself into doing something I'm not comfortable with. I don't like cathode followers, so thank you. It's nice to be alive. What is up? Andy is in the house. You didn't stop your stream for me, did you? So yeah, I've got that design with him, and then the Atlas, which you have seen in some other shots before. I finally kind of settled on a couple things with that and sent that off. So he played that the other night, my friend Michael Cavalier, and he said it sounds amazeballs. He didn't say that in particular. He said it sounds amazing. He tried to lead me on for a minute. He's like, Luke, do you really want me to tell you how, what I think about it? And I was like, yeah, I kind of, that's the idea, right? He's like, you want me to be honest? And I was like, yeah, that's kind of the only point. He's all, well, I don't know how to tell you this, but it's amazing. I was like, yeah, I know. But he did get me one of these for Christmas. So we've got some good stuff for Christmas here. And it's time to get into it. Right, meow. Full pull, baby. Full pull. So, let's have a sip to that. We got ourselves a 1.5 fingers there. That is some good stuff. If you're not familiar with it, this is obviously Nikka whiskey. It is some Japanese whiskey. Good stuff. If you can find a bottle of this, get it. Definitely worth the price. I think they're about 80, 90 bucks, something like that, depending on where you're at. Right in that mark. So good bottle of stuff. What else have I been up to? I have been designing a cabinet. And when I say cabinet, I mean a speaker cabinet. This is not from China. That is Japanese. So I'm designing a cabinet, and I'm trying to make an oversized, like 1x12. So I also ordered some speakers. So I've got me a Creamback Neo here, and these things are amazingly light. If you want a light speaker, check out the Celestion Neo Creamback. And then I also got, this one just arrived today. This is the G12H75. So I also own, currently, it's in one of the cabinets. You can't see it. It's right behind me, though, anyway. I already own the G12 M65. The G12. So I basically own the entire Creamback catalog now, with the exception of the Alnico Creamback. That one's pretty bold. I was listening to that one the other day on some like reviews or whatnot, and that one is that's a body. That thing's got some beef to it. So I'm trying to get away from having kind of too heavy of a speaker in terms of like its sound, like tonal character, and of course the weight. That's why I got the Creamback Neo. The gentleman that I'm building the cabinet for is trying to go a little bit on the lighter side, but it has to fit the head that I've already built for him. So I need to design the cabinet to match the head, and I want it to, so it's going to be oversized, but he wants it to be lighter. So the hope is that the Creamback will do the job. If the Creamback doesn't work, we're going to try the G12H75, or we'll put the Creamback 65 that I got in there. The reason I got the 75 is it is a little bit thinner sounding. It's not quite as much low end thump, and it has just a little bit more of a high end like poke to it. I'm trying to get just a little bit more clarity. I want to kind of meet the balance between like the G12H 30th anniversary, whatever that one is, and the G12M, the greenback. I'm trying to reach something in between there, but I want the wattage. I want something that's better than 25 or 30 watts, because I am starting to produce 50 watt amplifiers now. So we need some stuff. Look, you're sweating. Me? I'm not sweating. No sweating here. What do we got going on? Let me now it looks like we're all caught up, so that's good. So that's one other thing I've been working on. Another thing that I have been working on is the t-shirts. I have not sent out any t-shirts yet. I kind of felt that it would be appropriate to, have the winner of the competition get his first. But between the competition and the shirts I gave him and some of the local stuff I have going on here, I ran out of t-shirts to send to everybody. I believe I got one heading to Spent Electrons. I know I've got one heading to Dan Bronson. I've got one heading out to Riley. And I've got one ready to go actually for Maria. I think that kind of covers everybody. But I did order some more shirts. But look what they fucking sent me. What the hell happened? They did that on the front and the back. So these came on Monday, and I was immediately like, what the hell is going on here? Got in touch with them, and supposedly tomorrow, which is my birthday, tomorrow, happy birthday to me, the other shirts are supposed to come. Well, we're going to see if we got them right. The preview that they have from my previous order that was correct doesn't show the preview correctly. It just shows the L and the block. It doesn't show the writing underneath. And it shows a white background. I don't know. We're going to find out tomorrow. Yeah, no, it's that's Vista. I'm going to be honest in saying that Vistaprint freaking took care of crap like right freaking now. This came on yesterday. It came yesterday. My apologies. And last night at 7 o'clock, I'm on the horn with them on their chat bot or whatever, and they had the new one shipped out this morning to be here for me by tomorrow, which was the expected date for these to begin with. So they've been punching above their weight the whole way. It was not a cheap order. I mean, I guess $250 isn't cheap, but I got enough shirts to kind of do what I needed to do, and they really took care of it. So I can't naysay them. It's a bummer that they don't have a human that kind of looks at this stuff. Obviously everything's automated, which is kind of a bummer, because I think once the first shirt rolled out, if a human were to inspect it, they'd be like, nope, something's wrong. We need to go check in with this guy and see what's up. But that's not what they did. It would also be kind of cool if they looked at previous orders to kind of see, because more or less what I did was just a reorder. So I don't know how they got it wrong. Oh boy, yeah, no, the trip to Sweden was an amazing trip. I know Andy's never going to go, but if you're ever looking for a place to go on vacation, I highly suggest going to Sweden. an amazing freaking country. It's beautiful. It's not unlike America in any way in terms of like the landscape and all that. But the transportation system over there is like second to freaking none. Pretty much, I rented a car while I was there. I had me a Peugeot, as they say, an 803 or 308, whatever the heck it was, a 3009, whatever it was. It was a cool little Peugeot. But I didn't need to rent it, it turns out. You can literally get from Arlanda, the Stockholm airport there, Arlanda, to anywhere in Stockholm and get within about a quarter of a mile. And if that ain't close enough, there is a bus that will get you the rest of the way. I shit you not. You pretty much do not need a car to roam around that city. And it's expensive to park. And the parking situation there is kind of shitty. The way they have it set up now, if you're driving a car and you need to park, you have to have the app for where you're parked at. It's a pain in the butt. But so I highly suggest if you're going to go there, don't rent a car, just rely on the transportation system. And even as a non-Swedish speaking individual, it's easy enough to find your way around. Like you can figure it out. Oh no. Vagisil cut, I'm addicted to Snatch. Yeah, you know, I'm a vegetarian myself. Oh boy. So, yeah, definitely if you're going to go on a trip and you're kind of throwing the dice out there on where to go, pick Sweden. Can't go wrong. What else have I been up to? I have actually started doing some design work on the Igniter amp, which I'm not going to bother showing it. The Tweaker 15 has been gutted. I think what I'm going to do with that is this. I am going to sell that on Reverb. It's going to be a one of one. I'm probably not going to make that particular design again, but if you're interested and you're seeing this video and you want a one of one amp built by yours truly of legacy amplification, check it out. We will be doing that more of a live type of thing. We'll have lots of check-ins on that. Turns out I'm not going to have to drill any new holes. I can use almost all of the holes that are currently in the chassis, and I think it's going to work, but it is going to be a busy one because we're going to go for a high gain amp. High gain for me. Andy's probably laughing, but when I say high gain, I mean high gain for me. So let's kind of look out and see. Yeah. Better than being a brontosaurus, right? Well, hurry up and put her to bed. Tell her a quick good night story because we're starting to get into the good meat and potatoes portion of the show right now. So let me get to the desktop here. I'm trying to look around my thing. All right, what you're looking at is the schematic that I am tentatively going with for this build. I think, yes, good. You can still hear me. I wasn't sure I set that up or not. So what we got here is what my plan is. I am going with Andy's favorite phase inverter of all time. We are going to go with a cathodiene phase inverter. Now, there's two reasons why I went for that option. One is that I wanted to keep an extra gain stage in here. And two is that I didn't want to go away from my input topology that I usually use. Oh, and woke, what is going on? I hope all is well. Yeah, no, it comes with a bunch of Diddy oil, actually. You need lots of Diddy oil with this amp. You're gonna get greased up. Although I didn't show it here, imagine two triodes wrapped up in parallel. So that's the plan here. So I will run my parallel triode input. I usually fully bypass it. That is going to be up for debate on this particular build. This is my bass control. I don't like using full type tone controls, and I didn't put the high frequency tone cut. I'm not going to flub nothing. This thing is going to be busy. But here is a gain, and it's going to wrap around these two stages here. It's going to wrap. It will wrap around these two. I just didn't show it. This is just a fixed phase only for you. You know, the cathodiene phase inverter is actually a really cool thing. It's popular in hi-fi because it is very linear. And I'm not talking to you, Andy. I'm kind of talking to everybody else. But it is a very linear type of phase inverter. The downer with it is that it doesn't have as much headroom as per se like a it's going to have the same headroom as a long tail pair. It just doesn't have any gain. It doesn't produce any actual gain. So it's linear in that regard, but it doesn't have a lot of thump and bump coming out of it, which is fine because we're running a pair of 6v6s in this guy. This one's going to go fixed bias. I anticipate this thing coming out right around 20 some odd watts, 20 to 22 watts. No, we're not adding a damn tube. In theory, I wouldn't have to if I would be so bold as to split my, my input phase here. Or my input tube, I should say. But for me, excuse me, it is a real show now. It will have these 3 stages of gain here. I am going to wrap, like I mentioned, the volume control around this. I do not have it schematicized that way, if you will. And then it will have a master volume. So, no, I don't need to do shit. I don't get involved in all that stuff, Endwoke. My apologies, but no, we're not doing that. I don't even go to those channels, to be honest. I don't even know if they come here. To be honest, I don't think they do, because I'm pretty lucky in that I don't get a whole lot of that kind of crap going on. So I'm not trying to poke the bear either. I know, Andy, you want more tubes. There's already a lot of tubes in here. There's 3 tubes, 3 preamp tubes. That's a lot for me. So yeah, it will possibly have the, I may put an effects loop in it. I don't know if I'm going to have enough room, but we're going to see about that. That is to be determined. I am going with fixed bias, but I'm also running the bias hot off of the HT rails there. You can kind of see I've got another set of diodes there. And Andy would be happy to see this. I am doing a dual bias setup. Andy, do pay attention to this though. You will notice that I do it a little bit different than you do. This guy right here is a protection resistor. If by any chance this pot ever goes open, which is to say that the wiper comes off, lifting this bias node away from its grid leak, this guy here will protect the circuit and allowing it to go to its fully negative state, or whatever its highest negative voltage is. So that's all this is. So if you're looking for something to kind of have a way to kind of come up with a range, this is how you would do it. This is still your tail resistor, so this sets your low end. This one here obviously just sets the high end, and that's based off of this guy right there. It's R33 in this particular schematic, but this is your dropper more or less. So this particular power transformer doesn't have a bias node, so we're going to steal it right off the HT and do it that way. I am going with a full wave bridge, not full wave, but it's not bridge. I'm so used to electro boom. It's all good, Endwoke. I'm not upset. This guy right here, you'll notice that I'm using 2 diodes and they're both facing the same direction, yada, yada, yada. I am using a full wave bias setup. Now, the reason for that is that it more evenly loads the HT. In most cases where you come hot off the HT, either here or there, you got either option, right? Well, if you come off of here, it's non-incidental. It's part of your entire HT circuit. Whereas if you do it here, it's its own thing, right? It's prior to any kind of rectification and all that fun stuff. It's basically like a second rectifier, if you will. But doing it full wave like this evenly loads the HT, so you don't have one side getting drugged down more than the other. Because technically you don't need this second diode there. You can get rid of that diode and it would work just fine. Except for now you're loading this side of the HT just a little bit more than the other side. So that's all. I have not decided on the values that I'm going to go here yet. I'm going to try to go higher in these first 2. So obviously our, yeah, it's not a full wave bridge. It's just a full wave. So a bridge is a little bit different. If you're going to go with a full wave bridge rectifier, you have to use, well, you can't use the center tap. This particular power transformer does have a center tap. So we will be using that. So, freaking Team YDNA. I love how you just come in here and blast my shit. You haven't even mentioned my name on your channel, bro. What's up with that? Do tell. You know, love for Luke. We got a lot of capacitor action going on here too, so this thing will be well decoupled and what's the word for it? It's going to be noise free. It's going to be a noise free amp, and you're going to about to see why here in a minute. Andy, you're going to laugh at this. This is a busy amplifier. As you can see, this is a normal size turret board here. So this is the size of the turret board. You can see these here, which are the standoffs that are currently existing inside of the amp. This is my bias board here. This is where everything will be set up to do all the biasing. All these wires that you see on this board will be underneath. You will not see them. So it looks very hellacious at the moment, but it's not going to be that bad. This tube right here, I anticipated having to drill a new hole. I will not have to drill a new hole. It will be up over in here, but this is far enough away that this should clear. So the tube will be like right in here, and there'll be just enough room for these to kind of just poke like literally straight down. I'm not kidding. I might literally have a wire that's less than a freaking inch long. Same with this one over here. I mean, these are literally about an inch, maybe an inch and a half tops. This guy here, I am going to have to cut a notch out of the turret board, and the tube will sit hopefully right around in that spot right there. There he is, Mr. Angry Tube Man, AC himself. How is it going, my man? I hope all is well. And now that you're here, we can talk a little bit more about that. So, in just a moment. So, you can see it's very busy. It's going to fit inside of that chassis. That chassis is only, I think, 6 inches or something like that by 13, I believe. So there's a lot going on in here to fit all this stuff. So we're going to make it work. No Dr. Dremel on this one, actually. I'm going to try to make it literally come off stock. I obviously did not connect a lot of the wires here, but, you know, there's going to be quite a bit going on. So that's what I've been up to. This took a few days to come to this. I spent like literally over the course of a week, but you know, you come back to it every couple days and kind of change this and change that. It takes a little while to, oh yeah, no worries, dude, of course. You can see the dual bias kind of thing going on here. The HT wires will pop in here. The center tap will go there for the output transformer. This is that bias feed resistor. This is our first decoupling node right here. Yada, 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 the whole nine, right? All the fun stuff. So the way I tried to lay this out, this guy here will take care of that tube. This guy here will take care of this tube, etc., etc. So yay. So that is what this looks like in layout form. So yay. That's what I've been up to. So let's go back to me, because it's all about me. I got to talk with AC the other day. We spent probably a good hour, almost an hour and a half on the phone, yip-yapping, just kind of talking, shooting the breeze and all that stuff. For those of you who do not know, the Cerberus right there, that guy, is going, it's no longer going to be auctioned off. We're not auctioning it or anything like that. We are going to, Andy and I decided that we're just going to gift it to Angry Tube Man, as you see on here now, also known as AC. I won't give him your real name, but he is going to get the amp. It's probably going to be finished after the first of the year, and we're going to make a day out of it. So what I'm going to do is drag down probably half a dozen amps. So we'll have that guy. We're going to take my 18 water there, my finished one here. So that's one that I actually have that's finished. And then I've got 3 other amps that I'm going to try to drag along as well. So maybe 6 amps in total. And we're going to spend some time together. We're going to record it all, and we're going to post it here. Oh, yes, holy shit, Team YDNA, AC gets the Cerberus. You just got to be patient, bro. I'm telling you. You just send some love down the line, and you never know, it might come your way. Would you drink to that? Would you drink to that? Would you have some Nikki whiskey from Japan for that? I would. So that's what's happening with the Cerberus. As I mentioned, it's very close to being done. I have more parts that I have on order, and they're not going to be here while I'm away. They won't get here until after I get back, in fact. There's one part that doesn't come until like the 29th or something like that, which is kind of unfortunate. But I am going away next week. I'm going to Tennessee, so there's going to be very little progress content-wise until after I get back, after the first of the year. So, or after Christmas, I should say. What else has been going on? Well, aside from that, I've just been trying to keep busy. Making plans, trying to get all these other amps sorted out. I have all the parts I need for the amp that's going away to the guitar tech for Paul McCartney. I actually need to really get started on that one because that one's muy importante. My parents are yelling at me too. They're like, Luke, you need to freaking get your shit done too, you know. And then of course I have my KT88 build. I'm still kicking it around about whether or not I want to go higher voltage on that one. Should be beefy. Yeah, right? Lower gates should be beefy. Yeah. But every time I look at a schematic for something KT88 wise, it always seems to land right where I'm shooting at. Everybody kind of seems to shoot right around that 400 and something volt range. There's a hi-fi amp out there that's, I think it's a 50 or 60 watter, and it's using like 400 and it's like right at 400 volts. I think it's actually 386 or something volts on the plates. I'm shooting for about 420. It's non-incidental for me in that the holes that I'm using for the power transformer will be the same regardless of what power transformer I choose. So my lower voltage one will have the same bolt pattern as my higher voltage option. The only problem is with the higher voltage option, I will have to use a 100 watt output transformer because it would then be about an 80 watt amp. And now Andy's probably smiling if he's still here. But I'm not trying to go that way with it yet. I'm trying to get something more in the 50, 60 watt range. I'm trying to modularize it a little bit, but we'll see. We'll see. We don't know. What I've kind of learned is that what you want to have happen and sometimes what ends up happening are two different things. Same thing might go for this Igniter Tweaker 15, which I'm currently calling the Undertaker. For those of you who don't know, I usually try to pick some sort of Western themed name for the codes on my amps. It's not for any other reason than it just is easier for me to keep track of them. Whatever name it ends up with after it gets built is generally decided upon by like you guys, the likes of you guys, and or people that I have kind of test out the amps. Michael Cavalier has named 2 of my amps, in fact. 3. So yeah, it just is kind of what it is. I just don't know the name of the amp until after it's done. And I kind of let the world kind of decide where it's going to go. So this one's currently called the Undertaker, the Igniter amp, the 1 of 1. At the moment, we'll see how it turns out. It might turn into a pile of dog shit. It won't turn into a pile of dog shit. But when that one's done, as I mentioned, we're going to auction that one off, or whatever you want to call it. That one's going to go on to Reverb. We're going to see how that one does in the open market. So if you're interested, do follow along. We will have a whole series dedicated to that. We will have a whole series dedicated to the my 18 watt, which I technically don't have a name for yet. I'm kind of going with the Grey Goose. So this one is called the Woody for obvious reasons. This one is called the Grey Goose. The reason why is that the Grey Goose was left with Mr. Cavalier for a while, and he's like, well, it's gray, so, and it's top shelf, so he's all, we call it Grey Goose. So I might call it the G2 or something like that, G218, or I don't know. We'll figure it out. But that kind of takes care of all the stuff I've got going on. I guess we can talk a little bit more about this cabinet I'm building. It's looking to be, I'm trying to build it as more of a standard design. I like the G12 Creamback series. They're just a little beefier than the G12M, both in terms of like body, weight, and of course the wattage handling. And when I say body and weight, I'm talking about their sonic character. They're just a little fatter, just a little bit. The G12M Creamback, again, keep in mind I'm talking the Creambacks here, is a little on the dark side for me with a little too much low-end heft. And my amps are not wimpy by any stretch of the imagination. They're generally pretty full sounding, so it gets a little unruly on the low end sometimes. So I'm trying to find a way to even that out while still having a speaker. Bindi, pleasure. Welcome. I'm shocked to see you, in fact. Thank you for coming in. We will do a thing here, just because I know you. So, I am trying to find something that has... So I like the G12H 30th anniversary or whatever it's called. I think it's just literally called the G12H, but it's only a 30 watt speaker. And the downside to the 30 watt speaker is that there's a large portion of my amps are starting to breach beyond the 30 watt threshold. And as much as I like 2x12s, I think they're kind of falling out of fashion. More people are trying to go to smaller cabinets, more portable units. So my hope is that the Creamback, the Neo Creamback that I got, will take up that spot for lightness and still have the weight that I want it to have in terms of body and some of that high-end poke. I just want a little more high-end. So we're gonna see about that. I do not know, because I can already see AC's wheels turning in the background there. I don't think that'll be done in time enough for us to check that out. But it would be cool to kind of do something like that. I will be doing a video on those 3 speakers. We'll kind of do like a little sound test and kind of get everybody's thoughts and opinions on it. I'm working on the design of the cabinet still. In order to make it lighter, I am doing like channels that I'm routing out of the backside. And I'm trying to come up with a pattern that's kind of cool. And I want to use multiple levels of depth on the things that I route out. So I'm thinking like little hexagons, and they'll be arrayed on the inside of this cabinet, right? And then they'll be at different depths. So one will be deeper, one will be kind of in between, and one will be shallower, right? And then the idea behind that is that when you put the sides opposing each other, any one point directly across is not the same width as it is at some other point across. The idea behind that is to reduce standing waves. Another thing I'm going to do inside of the cabinet, instead of baffling it with like foam, I want to have it be an open back because I want to be able to still have some of the body get out of the room. But I do want to have some sort of like filler, if you will. So I've got some, the CL80 is a cool speaker. I had a CL90, I think it was. If that's what you're talking about, the Mesa Boogie speakers or something like that. But I wasn't a fan of it. So I have this 1-inch thick acoustic foam that I will line on the inside, at least on the sides and the top. I don't know that I'll put it on the bottom, but so the twofold, obviously sound and weight. So of course being able to reduce the weight is kind of an objective with the speaker because it is going to be oversized. So we will see about that. I am almost done with the design on it. I have the dimensions. I have to come up with what I want to do on the front. I haven't decided how I'm going to put the baffle and the speaker grill together yet. One of my other designs that I did, it looks great, it works great, but it's a bitch and a half to freaking manage, or if you ever have to take it off, you know, it's a job. And I'm trying not to make it a job. So either for myself or for whoever, you know, ends up with it, because it is, I'm hoping to make that a standard option that I have available for sale in the future. Or I don't know. There's something else I've been kicking around. I talked about it with AC a little bit, Angry Tube Man, for those of you who are here not understanding who I'm talking about. I'm kind of kicking around just doing nothing but giveaways at this point. I haven't come up with a naming structure for it yet, but basically like legacy amplification, guitar amp lottery type thing or something like that. It's obviously a little long, but basically like a guitar amp lottery. The way it will work, the way I'm imagining it right now, is that you have to go to a web page and sign up for it. The rules are simple. You have to sign up and you have to be a subscriber to this channel. The other rule would be that you have to be present to win, must be present to win. So at the point, Classic Lead 80. Okay. I haven't tried that one. I'm not 100% sure. My Hughes and Kettner was loaded with some Celestians, and it sounds like it might have been Classic Lead 80s. I took off the emblem, so I don't know what it was, but it was somewhere in that range, but I don't know. So yeah, you must be present to win. So when we do the lottery, the drawing for the lottery, you have to be on that stream at that time when the name is drawn out of the randomizer. And then another rule is that you have to be willing for me to come to your domicile, your place of existence, and allow me to film, you checking out the amp, which then therefore also means that you must be able to play guitar. Enough to be able to play guitar. I'm not saying you got to be a super shredder or anything, but you need to be able to play the guitar, which then also means you need some way to be able to play that amplifier. And by play that amplifier, I mean, if you don't have a speaker cabinet, you're not going to be able to play it. So therefore, you wouldn't be able to win the amp. So you have to fill all those requirements, and that's tentatively what I'm looking at doing. The reason why I'm thinking of doing that is I'm kind of realizing, like, the cost that I'd have to sell these at to make it profitable, I don't think people would buy them. Why are you in trouble? You can't be in trouble. The reason, so it's just expensive, right? Like, we already know that these things take hundreds of hours to build. They cost a bit of money to build, especially the way that we're doing it, at the rate that we're doing it. We don't have the luxury of scale or, scalability. Like the larger companies obviously get discounts because they buy thousands of these things at a time, or they're probably emptying out some warehouse that they found these parts at for pennies on the dollar, right? The resistors I use average out at about $1 a piece, so they're not cheap. And that's, when you factor in shipping and the actual cost of the part itself. The capacitors I use average out at around $6 to $10, right in there somewhere. Probably closer to $10 per capacitor once you average it all out again. Tubes, of course, as we know, are not cheap. And I finally had my first JJ take a dump on me. I'm going to see if I can show you. There it is. This is a KT77 that I was using inside of the Cerberus, and it was playing fine, and all of a sudden out of the blue it just goes, I hear like this snap. It was like, and then it just went, crackle mode from then on, and I am not sure if you're going to be able to see this or not, but maybe you can. Can you see the haze on the inside there? I'm going to try to get it, you can kind of see it there. So you can see that haze that's in there. That's inside of the tube. What I'm thinking happened is that the heater shorted to either the cathode or the plate. Trying to see, it's in that general vicinity, so it's next to pin numbers 7 and is that pin number 1 actually? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, it's actually pin number 7. So it's pin number 7 and 6. 6 is unused, and I believe 5 is the plate. And I believe 7 is not the grid. I think 7 is the screen grid. So either the screen grid took a dump and shorted against something, or something else shorted against the plate or whatever. Yap. What do you mean, yeah? How are you in trouble? But in either case, this one took a shit, and it is no longer functional. We get the frying bacon sound, which is no bueno. So that set of tubes took a dump on me. I have a set of KT66s as well that I was using at one point in a different build, the Atlas, in fact. These guys here I bought as a matched set, and their current is said to be 40 milliamps. I don't know what's going on, but one of these tubes is not like the other. Almost immediately after I put them into my cathode biased amp that I was using them in, biased to about 36 milliamps, if I'm not mistaken. There was just this hum. It was a background hum, and it was basically that they weren't, the bias on them was different. They weren't matched well enough. And that being the case, you get a little bit of a hum. Andy talks about it all the time on his channel, about being able to bias the tubes so they, are biased together in terms of milliamp draw, and then the hum will go away. Well, these ones are different enough that they would hum. And I put them in the Cerberus just for S's and G's, and that amp is just too ornery for them. It's too much plate voltage and too much for them. They're, the KT66s are like 23 watt tubes. It's not a 50 watt amp at that point. So I couldn't get the bias cold enough really for them. But I noticed the same issue. Like one of them you had to cool down quite a bit more than the other, like significantly more. So I might have two sets of tubes that are pretty much unusable, and they're both brand new. They've only been in an amp for all of 2 or 3 hours tops in use anyway. So sometimes you just have that kind of luck of the draw. But yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do with that in regards. So getting back to the cost of these things, like I'd have to sell these things for about $5 or $6 grand a pop. I don't know how many buyers are going to come along. And even if I could sell these things like out the door any given day of the week for, on the high end, $6 to $8 grand, right? For some of my higher wattage amps or whatnot, I still couldn't build enough fast enough to make it worth doing. Like even if I could get one out a month, like $6 to $8 grand isn't enough to live off of when you consider the cost and the amount of time that goes into these things. So I don't know that I can turn it into a viable business yet in that regard. I'm not trying to bang like 1 or 2 of these out a week, or even 1 or 2 of these things a month. I'd love to get 3 a month out. I think I could get to a point where I can get to 3 or 4 a month. But even at that rate, like, yeah, I'd be making good money, but I don't know how tenable that is. I'd be literally working all the time. I'd have to quit my day job in order to get that level of production. And another challenge that I have is I don't have distribution at all. So that means anyone else out there in the world has no access to this thing, which means you're literally putting that amount of money into something that you physically can't get a hold of. I don't see that being tenable for buyers. So it kind of just seems to me that at the rate that I can build these things, and kind of the direction I'm more leaning towards is being more of a class style thing. It just seems kind of more, might as well just give them away. And then rely on YouTube to kind of make up the difference. Either by super chats or just the income from the streams or whatever. More subscribers obviously will help in that regard. All that kind of stuff. So we'll see. I don't know. Right now my big goal is to just have a lineup of things that are available and ready to go. Like I know how it's going to be built. If somebody says make me the dual EL34 amp design that I got, I already know all the components that go in it. I already know where all the holes need to go. I can build it. I can build the box in no time because I have a standard box design kind of worked out now. All that kind of stuff. I can just do it and it'll be ready in shorter periods of time instead of 3 to 6 months or whatever it might be. I need to try to keep control of my side projects, which is partly why I'm trying to get this speaker cabinet thing figured out now while I'm still waiting to get these other amps done. there's a lot that goes into this. Like I've said it before in other episodes, like you're watching a company, come up from the ground up, literally. I've only kind of really started trying to venture down this path only the last like year or two. When I first started doing these videos, it wasn't really to try to sell anything. It was more as just like a way for me to kind of chronologue like how I do things now versus how I end up doing it later. And just give me like a way to kind of track that kind of progress. So when I was doing those videos in the earlier periods of time, it was more to literally just kind of show myself, hey, look, this is what the hell you did, and this is why you did it, and yada yada yada, so that when later on when I come back, I can update, if you will, repeat the cycle and figure out where I need to improve things or not. That kind of deal. Then it turns out I have a lot of amps that I want to build. And like I say, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7 different designs now, currently. At least 7. Looking to have an 8th design come up here pretty soon. I do know that I'm going to need to start creating more, like preamp, gain-based amps, and amps that have like channel switching and stuff like that. That is in the future. Obviously, effects loops and all that kind of jazz as well. I'm waiting for Riley to get back to me on what that tube-based effects loop that he got was. And it uses like those Russian tubes. I can't remember what they're called. They're not 6.2 NPs or whatever. It's some other weird like sub-miniature. It's like the size of your pinky or something like that. The other tube, or not tube, the other circuit that he has for his effects loop is an LM150 based circuit, which is similar to the one I got. The LM150s, they work pretty well. As far as guitar amps go, they're about as good as they come. Any tube circuit that you put in is going to sound like, it's going to sound different than if you didn't have it there. Let's just put it that way. What's better or what's not is up for debate, I guess, but the LM150s actually honestly do a pretty dang good job for what they are. So, yeah. But yeah, other little projects that kind of derailed me were like the tube pedal that I built. The Cerberus, I'm not saying it's derailed me. It's a cool project. I'm happy to do that. But, like little things like that where I get derailed from doing what I need to do, which is finish my freaking amps in their entirety and produce a website, put all those amps on that website, all that kind of stuff I need to freaking get done. And I can't work hard enough, fast enough. And then vacations. I went to Sweden. That was a hell of a trip. Loved it. Worth every penny and worth all the time. But now I'm going to Tennessee again. So that's 3 vacations I've taken this year. That for me is a lot. I haven't been able to take vacations like this ever before. I kind of based my life around self-employment. I was self-employed for just about 25 years. And, you didn't get time off paid. Like, if you didn't work, you didn't get money. So I always just worked. So anytime I fit any kind of a vacation in, it was usually pretty short, a 2 or 3 day kind of little venture. And it was usually just in a slow, like, lull that I would naturally have anyway. Nowadays, I'm fortunate. My employment status is good, and I have the ability to start giving back, I guess you could say. So I'm trying to get the ball rolling the other direction, where instead of me get, it's me give. So that's a big part of where I'm trying to head anyway. So I love getting away, but I beat myself up about it a little bit when I'm non-productive. These last couple of weeks, I've been very non-productive, at least seemingly to you guys, and to myself, I don't feel like I've been that productive, even though I've got 2 speakers here. I've got a cabinet design. I've got a design for an amp done. The Cerberus is just about like all these little things, but they're just little things, and like not one of them is done. That's the part that's like non-productive, right? So I'm going to try after the first of the year. I don't have any vacation time left, even though everything resets. I'll have sick time. That's about it. But I'll have to re-up my my vacation time. V-type in their Hombre. You know, the Hombre's a pretty cool little amp. That's the little 18 watt, like, kind of style one, isn't it? Or am I thinking of the Badger? Is it the Sir Badger? I can't remember which one they had, but there was one that was... Oh, the Hombre is based on, like, the 6G3 or something, the Fender one. I think it's the Badger that was, like, the 18 watt design that they had. It was more like an 18 watt Marshall. I was listening to the V-Type because, again, like I said, I'm trying to find a speaker here. I'm turning into a speaker shop. I've got a Celestion Gold in both the 12 and a 10 inch now. I have G12 T75s in my gray cabinet down. You can't see it, never mind. So I got G12Ms greenbacks in one of my cabinets. I've got a set of the G12H30s and a 2x12 that I have, and then I have two of the 65 creambacks in another set. And now I've got the other two creambacks in the lineup. Starting to turn into a speaker shop back here. And I still have in my possession the PV Sheffields that came out of this triple X cab that I got behind me. And I still have the American, oh, I can't even remember what name they were. The shittiest speakers you've ever had in your entire life. They're made by like American Speaker Company or something like that. They're not even around anymore. That's how old this cabinet is. They sound like dog, but like I've heard farts come out of my dog that sound better. So got some speaker options in here, and I'm trying to find one. I need to settle on one. While I was in Sweden, I did get to check out, and we'll see it in the video that I make in the coming weeks, but I got to check out damn, and the name eludes me now. Shoot, I'm gonna find it real quick. Excuse me while I find this. Oh, hey, what's up, Riley? There he is. I was hoping you're gonna make it. Boutique amp company. Olson amps, and that's Olsson. Check him out. He's got a really cool design right now. It's one that I did check out. While I was there, I got to play and check him out. Anyway, he's using, he said he was using the creambacks at one point in time. He's now using there's another version of a Neo speaker. It's like the Neo, not the blackback. It's not the Neo creamback, but there's another Neo speaker that Celestion makes, and he's using that one. Let's just see here, since we're here. Selection, products, guitar. Do they have it by Ruby, Cream, Green, Peacekeeper, not the Peacekeeper. The G12H Anniversary, that's one of the sets that I own. It's not the classic Lead 80, it's the V-Type. It must be the V-Type, but I think they make a sorry, I have to know now. Olson amps, check him out though. It's a solid state design, and maybe it's the Neo V-Type. That's what it is. Okay, for sure, I can tell you right now, it is the Neo V-Type that he's using in one of these designs. It actually sounds pretty good. It sounded good. But going back to Olson amps, let's check him out. His website, he said, is not up to date, but he's got this new like amp it's a combo amp. It's a 250 watt like Class D amplifier that he has derated down to 50 watts. So he said it'll produce a solid 50 watts of clean power all day, every day. Even though it's a 250 watt amp that's in it. I think it was going for around $500. I don't know how the hell he's able to freaking pull that off, but I don't think it's the Stage 40. No, it's not the Stage 40. In either case, it was cheap enough that it was just like, are you kidding me? Like, how are you getting these things that cheap? And these things are made in this shop. I went to the shop in which... No, I can't build a legacy on neodymium. I can, actually. I can build it on anything. if it comes down to the weight, I think some people will venture that direction. What I found kind of interesting is that at least in the reviews that I was looking at or watching, the 75 watt creamback, or the G12H75, and the Neo creamback were pretty similar in terms of their tonality. Obviously the H75 is obviously going to be a beefier speaker in the long run, but I don't know. We're going to find out. We'll figure that out. But yeah, check out Olson Amplification. It's Olsson. And here, why don't we just make that easier for you? Let's just go to here. So this is the name of the company here. Cool guy. I got to meet him and talk with him for a little bit. He did not give me any of the goods. But we talked shop for a little bit, but I guess he is out of pedals at the moment. He's been cleaned out of that supply, so he's working on some of that. He needs to update his website, he has mentioned. So he does not have his newest amplifier up there yet. So out of production. I think these other ones are sold out. But it's a pretty cool little thing. It's solid state, but it has a very tweedy kind of thing going for it. And then he's using this guy in it, which I don't know much about it. The 70 watt. So yeah, he's obviously dumbed that thing down to about the 50 watt mark, as he is mentioning, but it sounded good. And then I got to play a tweed he had there. I think it was a Club 15. I don't want to deal with split view right now. Yeah, it was the Club 15. This is actually a pretty cool one. It's kind of like it's tweedy in nature. It sounded pretty beefy. I can't remember. I think he had a creamback that was actually in it. But it was pretty beefy. It wasn't unlike the Peacemaker in terms of just its girth. Like, bold sounding, I guess you could say. And see, I think the H75 has less bass than the Creamback 65, or the M65, I guess, if you will. I find it to be not pokey enough, or have not enough high end on the M65. So if you're looking for something that's still full bodied and has a little less highs, then the Creamback 65 might suit for you. The H, again, I haven't been able to quantify it yet. We're going to work on that, but based on the reviews and all that I've watched, it has a little bit less bass initially up front, I guess, and a little more highs. So I can only imagine if it still had too much bass. What did you end up going with? So obviously you kind of like the classic lead 80s. No, Riley was not waiting at the airport with a lead pipe for me. I am going to send a shirt your way still, Riley. I know you've already given me your address, but I got a medium with your name on it. As soon as I get the actual shirts in, because as you can probably tell, these aren't getting sent anywhere. I'm so shocked that that's what they sent. They must not have somebody actually physically proofing those things. They were folded in separate bags. I just don't know if it was a human. But the Eminence GB128 vintage 30s. And see, I've never had a vintage 30, and every time I listen to one, I always feel like they're just too kind of like nasally, like they got this upper mid-range poke to them that I've just never been a fan of. I kind of feel like they're the AC30 of the speaker world, if you will. And I say that because you either love or hate the AC30. The EVM12L, yeah, okay. And then, okay. Another one that I thought was kind of nifty sounding, if you like a darker but heavier sounding speaker, was the Eminence DV77. And the Warehouse, there was a WGS speaker. It wasn't like the 30 or whatever. I think it was, what's the one that starts with the R? The Reaper? I think it's the Reaper. That was kind of cool. And that one's, I think, more of a, I can't remember what model it is. I don't know. If you're into 10-inch speakers, and I like 10-inch speakers, I think they're better actually for guitar than the 12-inch, but everybody wants a 12-inch, so that's kind of where you have to go. If you're looking for a darker, more rocky-based speaker, there is the Eminence, I think it's the RCF 65 or something like that, or RTF 65 or something. I got it in my Avatar cab that I recently picked up, and it was almost too solid. It didn't have enough high end for me. It had a strong mid range and a strong low end, but not quite enough high end for me. So I swapped it out for the Celestion Gold 10-inch, and I like the 10-inch. The Celestion Gold's kind of great for cleans and medium gain. Obviously, doesn't do the thing for metal or higher gain stuff, but if you're looking to just do kind of more, it sounds really boutique-y. How's that? It has kind of that weird kind of mid-range character that makes boutique amps kind of be what they are. And when I say boutique, I'm talking older ones, not the more modern ones like we have now, but I love this Avatar cab. It's made well. It's clean. Hold on, let me see if I can pick it up here. We're asking a lot out of me right now. But it's oversized. Let's see if I can get my foot underneath it. So it's oversized. So I believe this one's 24 inches wide. It's like 11 inches deep. And it's open back, but it looks like they kind of made it so you could go close back if you wanted. But you can see I went with the 12, or the gold. Yeah, I don't know, I like it. This one's using the full 3/4 inch back panels, which I kind of like that, to be honest. I like how they inset the plate. Usually they just slap a hole in the back and then put the plate right over the top of the hole. They actually routed down for the plate so it's flush with the back of the thing. That's a nice touch. And then the Avatar in the front is actually inset as well, so it's also flush with the material up there. They did a really good job on it. In terms of build quality, I haven't come across one that was any better. And certainly can't get any better than the price. Because the price on the damn things is unbelievable. I picked this one up for $250, and the one right next to it was a Dr. Z. And the Dr. Z was a nice one. It was filled with the Eminence, what's the freaking red one that they got? It's like, it wasn't the Ragin' Cajun or something like that. I wasn't into it. I didn't like it. The Dr. Z cabinet was a little too boutique-y sounding. Not a lot of low end. It had that mid-range punch that I didn't really care for, and it was just too expensive. They wanted almost double the amount for not even twice the cab. So no, it's not heavy. Actually, this one's really light. And then those Alnico speakers aren't really all that heavy. That's another reason I like the 10-inchers, is they're a little bit lighter than a lot of the 12-inch models out there. Although this Neo Creamback's pretty freaking light. I want to say it weighs in at 5 pounds, maybe less. Might be less than that, actually. Might be closer to 3 pounds. But yeah, whatever. But I like it. It's a cool cab. Definitely worth the money. Especially since you can order them with some of the higher end speakers in them too. It's not like getting your Mesa Boogie, that 212 that. Those things are pretty pricey for what they are. But I know that Harley Benton finally upped the price on their cabinets. Let's look and see. I'm gonna look on there. Harley Benton, home of Harley Benton. Let's see here. Yeah, I accept, whatever. Let's go cabinet. Let's see here. Let's go cabinet. There it goes. So what are they? They got the G110, the G112 Plus greenback. They got a G112 Plus creamback. It looks like they make one just about every price point and model. Let's see if I can get a price on it. Check price at Toman. Let's go. Yeah, No, you're right. You got to use the USA, and I did get that one. $255 freaking dollars. Are you kidding me? So the speaker alone, I just bought a Creamback. Keep in mind, two of them. In the last week, I bought 2 speakers in the last week. One of them was $179, and I think the other one was like $189 or something like that, or $169. Like one of them was a little bit cheaper, but not much. So imagine a $255 cabinet. How the hell are they getting that speaker for that cheap? Now, that doesn't include shipping or whatnot, but it looks like there's a little bit of custom. So, I mean, maybe this is the... it says English. I don't know. I didn't look up Thomann USA, but whatever. Still, $255, and no matter where you're at in the world, it's freaking unbelievable. I don't know how they're able to do it. So, still a hell of a deal, I guess, if you can get a hold of them. But there's all kinds of weird shit going on. What is it freaking... not Sir. GNL. GNL freaking is no longer, and now is owned by the company that they kind of started from. Like, it's free shipping in the USA. Are you fucking kidding me? That's nuts. Too bad you're not in the USA. Let me see if I can find Thomann USA. Hold on. Now, there it is. Bam. All right, there we go. Let's go. No, I was on the USA site, I believe. So they got their 412. I don't know what that thing's loaded with. At that $255, they got a vertical 212 with Celestion V30 for $285. That's cheaper than you can buy the 2 speakers for. How? They got a 7080 in one of them for $229. They got a 212. Doesn't say what it's loaded with. That's an interesting one. Yeah, no, that's still just too cheap. That's unreal. I don't know how they're pulling it off, because then you got a Mesa Boogie V 4x12 with V30s for $1,666. That's inane. That's expensive. $166 for a G112 Celestion V30. That's a 1x12 with a vintage 30. It's in stock, $166. That's cheaper than buying the speaker itself. Let's hold on. I'll take you with me. Let's just go here. All right, let's go to Amazon. We're gonna see what I've been buying. Vintage 30. No, I said 30. $169. $166. How? $142, I guess, from this place. No idea how or why, and it'll get here before Christmas. Maybe I'll buy one. That's cheap enough I can almost get it. But for that price, I might as well just get this thing. Apparently these things sound pretty good too. That's insane. Our ply. You know what though? So my words. If I could get this thing to hold still for me here. There we go. My Duncans, my Seymour Duncan cabinets that I own. They're 90s era, but they're made out of MDF. They're heavy. They're freaking heavy duty, and they've lasted, I don't know, 30 some odd years almost. At least 30 years, thereabouts. Close to 30 years anyway. I'm not sure exactly what era they're from. I think they're the early ones because they got the squiggly. I can't show you because it's buried under an amp right now. But it's got the squiggly line. It's not the newer one with the... It doesn't even have Seymour Duncan. It just says Duncan on it, right? But it's got the squiggly line that goes through the D. There's two different eras, and I don't know if this one's the earlier one or the later one, but I'm pretty sure it's the earlier one. To the best of my knowledge, these things were loaded with the G100Ks, G12 100Ks or something like that. Absolutely massive freaking speakers. I was looking into replacing them with that, and it was, once I saw the price on them and just how hard they were to actually get, because I don't think they make it anymore, it was just like, ooh, I don't know. I've only recently started getting into speakers and cabinets, and it's mainly just because now I'm at a point where I have to have options so I can figure out where I need to go with things. So, I don't know. Plywood cabs aren't that bad, and honestly, MDF cabinets are probably better than plywood, to be honest. I think MDF was almost literally created just for the purpose of making those kind of things. I think it started more in the car industry because that's what they use for cars and stuff like that. Not that it's any more fun to work with, but MDF is obviously much, much easier on the tooling than some of these woods that they have out there. I don't know. I don't wear through tools all that much because I'm not literally banging out tons of speakers every week either, but you know. Unbelievable. I can't believe they can sell that thing for that price though. I'm beside myself. Where was that shit when we were kids? Like, when I was a kid, you couldn't get this stuff at that price. My first multi-effects, like, you know, like, not modeler, but it was a multi-effects thing, was a Zoom 2020. I later on got the 3030 and then the Digitech, like, RP7 or whatever. RP7 sucked ass. I never did like that one. The 3030 wasn't any better than the 2020 was. But the 2020 was fun. I don't know what happened to mine, though. I don't know if I lost it again. This is weird. So I had the 2020 for eons. I finally took it to a guitar shop to trade it in so I could get some other pedals or something like that. Traded it in, and I go back like 3 or 4 years later, maybe longer than that. It was quite some time. It was a surprising amount of time. And I looked down in the cabinet, and there it was. It was a Zoom 2020. I was like, hey, can I see the back of that thing? And sure as shit, it was mine from, you know, when I had it. So it went through at least 2 or 3 hands because I gave it to someone else at some point, and then he gave it back to me. And yeah, this thing has just been all over the world, it seems. But it came back. I picked it back up, but I think I might have lost it in one of my relationships. I think. I'm not 100% sure. I don't recall seeing it after that point, which is unfortunate, but I guess that's how some breakups go. You just gotta leave everything behind. But aside from that, I haven't been up to too much else. I go to work every day. That's really what it comes down to. So my job, hopefully this week while I'm out in Tennessee, is to try to get through all 114 of those. Yeah, right? That's way too cheap. $200. This whole tariff thing that they keep talking about, like, Rhett Scholl loves to make a video every other week, it seems, about, you know, how evil Trump is with all these tariffs and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, the tariffs suck, but, you know, it makes sense why we're doing it. But in either case, aside from that bullcrap, there was never a point in our lives where a guitar of any reasonable amount of quality should have been able to be produced for $150. I mean, just from the resources alone that it burns through to make the damn thing, it shouldn't be allowed to have something that's burning that amount, that kind of resource for that price. So I was always angry at these $150 guitars, and I'm not going to say I didn't buy some over time. I don't own any myself, but I own like kits that I've made from like GFS. If you've been to GFS, you know that at one point you could buy like their Polonia bodies or whatever. The Polonia is freaking killer stuff. But if you can find a body made out of it, pick it up because it's actually really cool wood. But you know, it was $50, and then you buy the licensed necks from like Warmoth or whatever for $150. You've got yourself a $200 guitar, and yada yada yada. It's great for new players, but it's not good for our market. It's just that race to the bottom. I hate the race to the bottom. It's a waste of the freaking resource. I have 2 guitars from the 1990s. One's a Squire 2, I believe, and one of them's a Samick. And if you know anything about Samick, at one point in time, Samick, I believe they were based in South Korea at the time. I'm not sure. It was either Vietnam, South Korea, or Indonesia, I think. But at one point in time, they made 55% of the world's guitars. Samick made shit for Fender. They made it for everybody. It's like Cort today. So Cort is what Samick was 20, 30 years ago. Cheap guitars then, I think, going, 30 years back, they were $180, $200 for these things, and they were made out of freaking plywood. At least that's better use of the freaking material than the ones you're getting now that are actually made. Have you seen the ones? What is that guy's name? The freaking bulky, Asian guy with the long hair that plays more metal kind of stuff, and he gets all the cheap guitars. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He's got a killer channel, but he took the one guitar that was supposedly made out of real wood or not. Like, everybody was debating it. It was made out of real freaking wood. Like, full-on real maple cap and the whole nine. And, it's a sub-$1,000 guitar. It's just like, why are we destroying those resources for shit that cheap? Shouldn't have ever happened. Should never be allowed. By Damick. Samick, you mean? Samick is Korea. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right. I think I haven't gotten it yet. I don't know for certain, but I might get my first hollow body, E335 or ES335 style guitar. My friend, Mr. Cavalier, I made a couple, he's the one who tests all the amps and stuff like that. But he also owns one of my 18-watt designs. He has a Samick. What's the other side brand that they had? It's not Samick, but it's made by Samick. What's the guy's name? I can't remember. Whatever. There's some other side brand that's like the upper end version of Samick, and he's got the ES335 model. And I told him, hey, I want to pick that up from you. And he's like, hold on, you got your birthday coming around the corner here. We'll figure something out. And he wants to sell his. Oh, I want that one. Tell him to send it to me. Seriously, if he's gonna sell it, send it to me. That thing was killer. I didn't like the pickups. They're too hot to my liking for that particular guitar. And it might just be because the pickups are just a little too close to the strings, but Greg Bennett, that's it. Good job. Team YDNA on point tonight. Tell him if he's going to sell that shit, sell it to me or give it to me. One of the two. Maybe I'll make it worth your while. But in either case, yeah, it's unreal how they're selling these things too cheap. So I can't believe he wants to part ways with it. Tell him to send it to me. I'll take care of it. And if he wants money, I'll send him money. If that's what it comes down to. Because I actually like that guitar. I like the way it played. I like the way it sounded. Sans the pickups. That's something I can deal with, though. The tuners on it were fine. That Eastman guitar, as best I can tell, it was a single piece top and back. Very rare, very hard to get a hold of. Ebony fretboard. Again, don't know for sure it was veneer or actually full on ebony, but that's cool. I like the binding that they used for it. I can't remember if it was wood or not, but I think it was. I wasn't happy with the way they did the scarf joint on it. It doesn't look like they actually put one in there. Maybe they did, and even if they did, I'm not a fan of scarf joints anyway, but I know that they're a necessary evil for that type of guitar. I wish they would have put a volute on it. Any kind of neck that has a set back, headstock needs to have a volute, period. There's no reason not to put one on. I have a 69 Cameo Deluxe. And this is a Japanese-made pile of shit. I mean, even then it was a pile of shit. It's worth more now than it was when it was new. But even that pile of junk has a freaking volute on it. So yeah, if he wants to part with it, tell him to send it back to me. I'll make it worth somebody's while. Because I liked it a lot. So I can wind my own pickups. I need to do a video on that. Talk about getting sidetracked on projects I don't need to be getting sidetracked on. But I made a pickup winder years ago because I wanted to wind my own pickups. In fact, I've got like half a dozen guitars that have my own pickups in them now. But this guitar here is loaded with pickups that I wound in it. I think they're Alnico 2s, maybe Alnico 5s. But I went, you can kind of see, I got quite a bit of, maybe you can't see, I don't know, maybe you can't. I like distance between the pickups and the strings. So these ones are hot enough output that they're hot, but not, I guess they're medium output. I think they all kind of sit right around 6K, somewhere in there. And then this guitar up here, I don't know if you guys have seen this one yet. Maybe you have. But this guy here, I wound these pickups as well. And you kind of see how I did the open sort of thing for this guy. But this one is wound kind of like the Jerry Donahue. When I say Jerry Donahue, Seymour Duncan Jerry Donahue. I think it's only available in the custom shop now. Jerry Donahue is hands down the best Telecaster pickup you can possibly get. Just if you're in any kind of doubt as to what single coil, Telecaster pickup to get, just get the Jerry Donahue. You cannot go wrong with it. It is hot. It's got bark. It's got spank. It's everything you want. I wired this one to be a replica of that, and it's really close. And then this guy here I wired to be like a twisted telly neck. I wanted, the brighter kind of thing going on. I did pretty good, I think. So, in either case, there's that. And then this guy here this is one I built. So I bought this body off of eBay, and when I got it, it was about the color of the neck here, but I did all the finish work on it and wanted it to look like it was actually on fire. I think I did good. But yeah, this one has the Jerry Donahue in it and a twisted telly. That's how much I like those sets, if you're into that kind of stuff. All the Telecaster neck pickups I've come across, at least that are vintage style, just too low in output. When I say low in output, I mean that the disparity between the neck and the bridge was just too much for me. I like having some balance, and then I just like the brightness of the more modern stuff. Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to do a P90 build. I was this close to pulling the trigger a few years ago, but it was right about the same time I was futzing around with building the Woody back there. And I finally came to the design that I was at with that guy, and once I got that, I was like, okay, forget about the guitars. I want to get into this now, or focus on that. And yeah, so I ended up brushing off the P90. That, and I was being very particular about it. Yeah, hot single coils. Those, the Jerry Donahues are hot. I think they're 8 to 9K, maybe 10 in a single coil. It's got some thump. Like, it's authoritative. Let's just put it that way. I like it. So yeah, I did a couple. I made a set for my friend, and I think I have another set that's up in one of my other guitars, my Samick actually, that I got. One of these days I'll bust it out, but I don't play it much anymore. It needs a refret, which maybe I'll do one of these days. I have the fret wire for it. I've picked up some stainless steel stuff, but my Samick has been played to the degree where the frets are now so flat that you cannot play it anymore. Everything gets choked out. Your fingers touch the fretboard and you just can't play anymore. It's that gone. My other one, the Squire 2 I was talking about, the other plywood guitar. Why they should just make guitars out of plywood. I kid you not. These things sound great. They play great. There's nothing wrong with them. You can just tell they're made out of plywood. But, I mean, if you're going to sell a guitar for $150, might as well be made out of plywood or freaking some more, what is that, OBS or something like that? Or MDF? It just, I don't know. Anyway, personal opinions and stuff. So I picked up a guitar. I had a friend that was he was looking to learn how to play. And I wanted to get him a Christmas gift. So I think it was not last year, but the year before, I picked him up a guitar on Amazon. And it was like $180. So it was a little bit better than these $150, $75 units you come across. But I had a roasted maple neck. I'm pretty sure it was fake. I don't think it was real roasted maple. The color was just a little off. I didn't bother scratching it to see. And if you've ever had a real roasted neck, you can tell right away because you could take off the tuners. It will, if it's done right, it will have the same color all the way through the tuners where they drill the holes for the pegs to go through. That's one way you can tell if you got gypped on a roasted neck or not. Most of these lower end guitar brands, I think they're just painting it and saying it is. Stainless steel, I know that they make harder frets than some of, the nickel stuff that you can get. I'm not going to say they're not using stainless steel frets, but stainless steel is a bitch and a half to work with, and it burns through tooling, and it takes a hell of a lot more time because it takes more energy to freaking file them down and get them right. I don't know. When you're selling a $200 guitar with stainless steel frets, I don't see it, because unless you're paying some kid freaking $5 a week to do it, I don't see how there's any money in it. I know a lot of those cheaper guitars are using what they call photo finishes. So they'll use real wood, which is a shame because they're just literally covering real wood with a photo finish. So it looks like the grain of a normal guitar, except for, it's just literally a piece of paper that's been glued on to the wood, and then finish is placed over it, polished up, and it looks, you can almost always spot a guitar that's got a veneer finish because they always put either binding on it or they always paint the edges. That's like a dead giveaway to know that you've got a veneer finish on a guitar, is they paint the edges like a dark black color. I have a Schecter Diamond Elite. I can't remember what model exactly it is. It's a 2013. It's a killer guitar. It's about a $1,200 unit. It has an ebony fretboard. It's got a compound radius, so it goes from 12 to 16. It came with the Seymour Duncan, like JB and whatever, bridge and neck set. It came with coil tapping. It had a full floater, like a Floyd Rose 2, like the real Floyd Rose 2, not the cheap ones. Best floater I've ever had, or come across, I should say. Locking nut, the whole nine. The nice tuners, like real Grovers or Hip Shots, I think they were. Maybe Hip Shots, whatever. Killer guitar. But even though it had a nice, flame maple top on it, pretty sure it's a veneer because they did that same kind of thing where it's painted around the outside, so you can't actually see the edge. So I know it's unbound. The back side is, I think it's poplar. I'm not a fan of poplar. The guitar sounds funny to me. I don't know what it is about it. That was the thing that taught me to never buy a guitar sight unseen. As beautiful as it is and as well as it plays, it just doesn't sound right to me, and it could be partly the bridge. I think it's a steel block, but it's like the thinner steel. It's not like the big giant brass block. And if it's the brass block, there's something about it. It's just not right. So it could be either the bridge block that's in it, or the poplar that it's made out of, or it's just maybe that's how those guitars kind of sound to me. It's kind of got like this honky mid-range to it that I don't like. So I actually unwound the bridge pickup, which was not whatever comes in the JB set. I can't remember what they call it, but if you got the not JB, who's the freaking Jeff Beck? Yeah, it was whatever that set is. In either case, I don't know. I didn't like it. I cut out the thing and then rewound it with my own wind. And it was a little bit more mellow, just a little bit. Didn't really change it that much though. So it still worked. Still sounds kind of the same. But might just be the guitar. I want to get a set of the Fluence Fishmans to put in it. But Fluence Fishman, they need to work on their marketing a little bit better. Because they're not very clear about what comes in the sets that you buy. I've seen some of them on like Sweetwater where it kind of appears like it comes with the full kit, where it's like the no solder, and it has all the pots that you need and all the little switches and stuff like to make all that stuff kind of work. Much like the EMGs do. an EMG set that I was actually really impressed with. I recently did some work on a friend of mine's guitar up the street here, and he got the EMG, not Kirk Hammett. Who's it? Jeff? No. Who's the other lead guitarist in freaking Metallica? Not Kirk Hammett. James Hetfield. James Hetfield. He got the James Hetfield set, and they actually impressed me. I was actually couldn't believe an active set of pickups actually sounded that nice. Quite impressed with those. So if you're into EMG and you're wanting to try something a little bit more modern, but still really, really good, I would honestly put my money on the James Hetfield set. And it came with everything you needed. There is still a little bit of soldering required, but yeah, I only had to do, 2 or 3 wires or something like that. It's not incidental really. For me, that's not a problem. It's just, for other people that want to have a turnkey system where they just undo and put back in. I think the only thing I had to do was the input jack and then one other wire, like the ground wire, like literally 3 wires. That was it. So, Dustin, holy cow. Good to see you, my man. Let me take care of something right now. Boop. There we go. So, yeah, I want to try the Fluence Fishmans though, but they're not very clear as to what comes in their kits, if they're even sold as kits. So that kind of disappoints me. So for $300, I kind of want it to come with everything it needs. I don't want to have to buy pots or worry about stupid crap. So one of these days, yeah. So I'm modding everybody now, in case in the future we end up with any problems. I've been lucky today. I don't think we've had anybody. We haven't had anybody. Owen, I don't remember you. I would imagine you're a subscriber. Are you? BC Electronics, I do know. So let's get you guys in here. Owen's been freaking cool, so I'm going to add you anyway. So, we don't like the trolls. I don't do the troll thing. So I don't want to see it. I don't want to know it. So as long as you guys keep it clean, I won't have to do anything crazy. We're fortunate at this channel that we can kind of just yip yap about stuff. And I'm pretty good at yip yapping anyway. Dustin, I think you'd be surprised. It doesn't cost that much money to make your own amp. Like the money that, like Andy and I spend is like upper echelon level. We're not skimping on the parts. You can buy the basic stuff and it's not going to sound bad. Do not ever let anybody tell you that if you buy the cheapest resistors and the cheapest capacitors and, JJ tubes, that it's going to sound like Dookie. That is not the case. It's not going to sound the same, but that does not mean it's going to be mine's here and yours is here. It's going to be, like they're going to be right freaking next to each other. Where it's mostly going to come to being different is who built it, you versus me. Like, you're not competing against me though. You know what I mean? Like, you're only competing against yourself. So the better job you do, you know what I mean? That's where it kind of comes down to the layout. Like all that time we've spent doing, let me show you. So we're just clear on all this stuff. The time you spend doing this, making a clear layout, or schematic of what you're going to do. So you spend the time to make it just look good and easy to read, yada, yada, yada. And then the time that you spend getting to this. So this is that schematic in layout form to fit within the confines of this amp that I have. Now I'm doing it the hardest way possible, which is working with constraints that I have no control over. So the tube placement, I don't get a choice on, right? The holes are in the things already. So objectively, I was trying to get this thing laid out in such a way where everything kind of landed near the tubes, right? All these wires that you see, it's going to be a mess underneath this board, but you're not going to see any of those wires because all these little wires that you see going across the turret board are underneath. Yeah, right? So you don't have to go nuts. You don't have to. Now, I did break a couple of my own rules for this build in order to make it work. the way I've got these capacitors here grouped up like this, I don't particularly like doing it that way. Generally, you want to have these guys next to the stage that they're powering or closer. So this guy right here is for this tube here. This guy right here, C4, is for this tube here. And then this C3 is for this tube there. And then these two take care of the power section, right? Well, ideally, you would have these things spread about where they were nearer the tube that they were actually powering, right? That is the proper way to do it, or I should say the most ideal way to do it. But it takes up more space. So it's not always the easiest or most prudent way to do it. And in this case, I was forced to fit everything that you see here within the confines of one turret board, which is the, you know, little beige thing that you can see there. And I fill up just about every damn hole on it to do it. A lot of resistors, a lot of caps and stuff going on there. And then I had to use a separate board over here for the bias. So you just, the more time you spend getting this right and this right, the better your build is going to turn out. What you don't want to do is do it the way that John does it. I tease. Let's do DIY amp gut shots. Let's see what we get. I don't know what we're gonna get here. So let's just try to envision crap that could make or break stuff. This one doesn't count. This guy builds pedals, but his stuff is nuts. This is a pretty good job right here, honestly. Like, it's not horrible. There's longer runs back here than I would like to have. There's no point why putting this over here couldn't have been done. But you can see it's pretty clean. Everything's tidy, right? What you don't want to have, like, this isn't exactly pretty here. Like, this is pretty messy. To me, this is messy. Like, that's a lot going on. Like, it's not very clean, right? There was one... I mean, for what this is, it's tidy enough. This is a Friedman JJ Jr. This is a PCB down there, by the way. So there was recently a video that was put out for a Mesa Boogie. Not an old Mesa Boogie, a newer Mesa Boogie. And it had burned up, a burned up board because PCB. So... this one's pretty clean. Again, this is a PCB. This is Friedman JJ. This is all PCB underneath there. Don't be fooled. So underneath these eyelets, these are eyelets. So it's a PCB board. There's a trace underneath there. So if by any chance something gets burned up, it will burn up the trace and you end up having to wire a wire anyway. I'm trying to find bad examples. I'm not having that kind of luck today. So this is pretty tidy. So if you can do this level of work right here, you're not going to have any problem at all, ever. Like, later AC, have fun, man. Like, if you can build to this level of quality right here, and this isn't even the best of the best, but this is just good. This is really good. That's clean enough. Like, that's all it takes. Short, clean, concise wire runs. Everything's just tidy and kind of put where it's supposed to be, etc., etc. You want to try to avoid shit like this. Like, yeah, this is how Fender did it, but that's just a mess. It's a freaking mess. You want to try to avoid doing crap like that. Let's see if I can find another one that's just badly done. There was a Marshall that I saw that was just absolutely horrid. This is an older, it looks like maybe a Supro or something like that. That's kind of par for the course for that era. Obviously, we know Matchless and how they do their stuff. This one isn't particularly all that good. This might, yeah, it says Harry Joyce. It might be a real one. But you can kind of see here, this one like veers off. You know, little things. Like this one's probably been worked on a little bit at some point in time. But that's where everybody's definition of clean comes from. But then you get crap like this. Oh my God. That is so many pots. What a mess. I can't imagine that sounds clean, but I don't know. Maybe it does. Some of these are not that bad, though. That's kind of messy, actually. So see what I'm talking about? See how they got all these caps kind of like on this one side? You have to imagine you're taking power from here and you got to run it all the way across over to here somehow. But it's over here. It's starting over here, which means it's already on what I call the quiet side of the board, right? Mesa has always done PCBs, as far as I know. Yeah, no, they're all PCBs, unless I think you're joking with me, but I know you're joking with me. You have to be. So yeah, this is what I consider the clean side of the board. This is where all the noisy shit should be, is on this side here. But now you got this thing over here that has to go somewhere over to here. It's got to cross the board one way or another. Well, parallel. Are you talking about like wiring the tubes? Because parallel circuit versus series, there's really no thing for that in terms of wiring and all that jazz. This is a mess. Don't do it like that. That's just messy, right? Things like that. That's just messy. See how you got this wire here? It's just laying across the top of everything. Same here with this one. It's laying across the top of everything. Like when you start running all these wires and they're all crissy-crossing every which way, that's when you run into trouble. That is bad. Bad. Don't do that. See if we can find another example. Another couple of examples. What is this? So this is a DIY. Everything's laid out at least kind of cleanly. Makes sense. This looks kind of similar to what, I can't remember the name of this company, but Noise. So you have to think about it this way. When you run a wire in parallel, right next to itself on something else. So when you run two wires like this next to each other, there is always going to be some amount of capacitance or capacitive coupling, if you will. So you want to try to wire or have wires land crissy-crossy with each other. Now there's a bit of depends on that. Like sometimes you just can't avoid having two wires run side by side, but depending on where they're at in the circuit, that's totally fine, right? You can get away with that. But if this is one phase and this is a different phase, so let's say the signal going down this one is going this way, and the signal coming in this wire is going the other way, right? But they're ran across each other, you can actually get them to have cancellation just as well as you can have them actually start to feed back and couple together capacitively. So you don't want to you want to try to avoid that if you can. That is true, Mr. John of Team YDNA fame. There is not, if you have a bad layout, you cannot fix it with wiring. The layout kind of determines where your wires are going to land. And I'm sorry if I'm not looking at the camera. I'm looking both different directions here. But there's a lot of depends in that, though. It's not a hard set rule, Dustin. It's just something to be mindful of. If you can, all wires will just kind of fan out naturally from their spot and go where they need to go. They won't stack and crumble and crissy-cross and do all kinds of weird shit, right? I think this is a Mesa here. Pretty sure this is a Mesa because it's got all the freaking shit. This is what Mesa looks like inside. This is why a lot of techs don't like working on them, because how do you work on this thing? Let's enlarge this in a new tab. So I see 1 layer, 2 layer, 3, there's at least 4 different PCBs on this thing here. And let's make it so you can actually see that. So this is a Mesa. How do you fix this thing if something is broken down there? How do you fix this thing if something's broken down here? Question mark. You've also got this thing hardwire right here. So you can't just easily break this board out. It's also hardwired to each and every one of these pots. How do you work on this without peeling every single thing out of it, right? So it's really difficult to find the trouble, the trouble spots. And even if you know where it is, in order to work on it, you have to take everything out. and that means you cannot test it in place. So you have to take everything out, fix that little diode in there that's burned up or whatever per se, put it all back together again, and hope to God you got it right. Because if not, you're undoing all of this work again, right? Does that make sense? Sometimes boards like this is, you know, not too incidental. These things pop off, but what do they got right here? It's hard soldered to it. It's hard soldered over there. So what's underneath there? What else are you going to have to unsolder elsewhere in order to do the work on this thing? So you can kind of just see what I mean by, like, mesas are not fun to work on. This one is not as egregious as some of the other ones are, where they literally stack one board atop the other, kind of like these two are here. It has happened before. Maybe we can find one. I don't know. Maybe not. Oh, look at that mess. Holy hell. And that's actually the VHT. That's pretty messy. To me, that's messy. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just nitpicky. My amps are pretty clean. I wish I had saved the picture. In one of my videos that I did earlier on, I was showing like a DIY Marshall build. I kid you not, it was the single ugliest freaking build I've ever seen in my entire life. So these are what the old amps used to look like. This is a Bogan. So this is point to point. So it looks messy by design because everything that's touching something else is touching the other component that it needs to. There's not a whole heck of a lot of wires in here unless they need to be there. But you can see they got this resistor spanning across over to here. That's what true point to point looks like. You can see they got a ceramic cap here. It looks like it's spanning across, you know, some tube socket or something like that. They look like hell inside of them, but they're technically better than a lot of these turret board designs that you see out there. And it's because this component isn't on a board over here with a wire that's running it from it over there and then back to some other part over here. It's right there. It's going to the part that it needs to, which makes this, you know, the layout a little bit difficult to do. Oh God. See, this is crap too. See, not even this is good. Brutal. 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 Brutal, brutal, brutal. So here's another high watt. You can kind of get an idea of why, again, they're, you know, sought after and why they're kind of, everybody looks looking like parallel. BC Electronics. BC Electric, my apologies. I have not tried Edcore yet. I have been very close to buying their stuff before. Let me show you why. The downside with Edcore is, I believe that's them. No, that's not. Edcore Electronics, that one. So the downside with them is push-pull output. They're kind of fixed with a lot of their stuff, right? Most of their stuff has like 60% tap, so they're more in tune, not so much with the guitar world, but more the hi-fi world. So this is a 10 watt 10K. Price is fine, but if we look here, you can see here we got screen taps. So most of these things come with screen taps, and it's not that you have to use them, but it's just another wire that's there that you don't need. Another problem I found with Edcore is that you usually can't get the number of taps that you want on the secondary side. So you can get 8 and 4 ohm, but you can't get 4, 8, and 16. It's little things like that. And then it looks like this one might be like a 70 volt version or something like that. So they do a lot more stuff for like hi-fi. Here's one that actually has all 3 taps, but again, it comes with screen taps. So yes, you can have 4, 8, and 16, 2.5K at 100 watts. I mean, this would be good for like a pair of KT88s, KT66s, like large bottle stuff, like EL34s and stuff. You can probably get away with that in a quartet of EL34s or something. But again, they're more hi-fi based. Price-wise, they're not bad. $232 is not a bad price. I just find it easier to go with Hammond. And it would be nice if I could spell right. There we go. Hammond just really, everything is pretty easy to find. Power transformers. And then you just kind of look, okay, I like the 300 series. The reason I like the 300 series is because it usually comes with the world voltage. So you have 220, 230, or 240 or whatever, along with 120 and 110. So it's got multi, input. It also has a bias tap on these. And I think they just have a little bit more options in terms of, like the filament sides and all that jazz. What's also nice about Hammond and why I'm a little more of a fan of them is that this one's pretty easy to get an idea of what it is. It's 2.5K, 100 watt. We know that's push-pull. But Hammond, you can kind of see right on the thing what the milliamp current is. Do you notice anything about this one? It doesn't say anything about what milliamp it's rated for or anything like that. This is power transformer, but you know what I mean? Like, let's go the other way. Sorry. I'm not comparing apples to apples right now. Let's see if I can find power. There we go. So power is generally a little more whatever. Well, these ones actually do. They've updated things a little bit at 175 milliamp. So cool. Yeah, they've come up a bit. They didn't used to be quite this clear. I'm going to have to look into this a little bit more. I know Edcore is USA made too, so I'm actually stoked about that. At 300 milliamp. But let's just look at this one real quick. What do they mean by that? So it's 120 only. 215, 0, 215. That's pretty low, which makes sense because it's pretty high milliamp. 210 is a little bit more expensive than some of the other ones. I'm kind of eating my words right now because I should have looked at this first before I made an opinion. Years ago, it didn't used to be quite this clear and concise, and they didn't appear to have at the time as many options. So this one's a 350, 0, 350. Is it? No. 700 volt at 200 milliamp. Again, only 120. 100 volt. That's interesting. Wonder why they're calling it a 700 volt. Oh, that's why. So at 120 volts of input, you get 350, 0, 350. That makes more sense. 184, that's not bad. I'll have to look into it again. It's not one phase into 3. It's just where it's tapped. So let's go back to here. So let's imagine this being the primary, right? So you got whatever X voltage in. All this is a tap right here. So see how this coils around, and then you got these meet in the middle, and then it coils around. Let's go back a little bit here. Maybe we can get to push-pull output tube transformer. Yeah. So you'll notice here, see how they coil together, and then they come out, and then it stays connected, and it coils and it goes out, stays connected, coils and goes out. Those are taps. So this is one continuous wire here, all the way around the secondary. This just happens to be one side, one end of the wire. This is the other end of the wire, but this has less ohms than that does. There's less resistance here, which means less resistance to output, right? You get more voltage swing out of that, but at less current, right? Same over here. You get, or does it go the other way? Maybe it's more current, less voltage or something like that. I can't remember exactly how it works with these ones off the top of my head, but everything's in exchange for current or voltage. So one of these is going to have more voltage, less current, while one's going to have more current, less voltage, and even less current and even more voltage, that sort of deal. That's how it works. But it's one continuous strand of wire where they tap off at a single point to make the different taps. Whereas if you look at the, let's go forward again. So if you look on this one here for the secondaries, god dang it, my mouse is freaking getting pissy with me. See here how this is one coil of wire, goes to the center tap, which is the center of these two, of this tap, and then it stops. That's the beginning and the end of that run. Makes sense? Again, same thing here. 3.15 volts, center tap of that length of wire, and each one is separate from each other. So that's the difference. But what I don't like about Hammond, and I don't know that we're going to be able to see it in the pictures. Yeah, you can kind of see it. If you look there on the wire, you can kind of see it looks like black kind of crust. Whatever they paint these things with, they also paint on the wire. Let's see if we can see it in this view. You can kind of see it here. They tried to clean it off, but you can just see it looks like there's black speckling on the wire. Well, when you actually buy them, they come looking like absolute freaking hell. This part of it looks great. It looks super clean. I love it. But the wire looks just disgusting because it's got black paint all over it. Doesn't look very appealing. And they clean this one up too, which is a shame that they do that because that's not what you're getting when you buy it. It looks like absolute hell when you get it. The wires are just ugly. Edcore, I think theirs actually looks nice and clean. Like this is indicative of what you'll get, even though this looks kind of like a rendered image, if you will. So I could be wrong. I'm going to have to look into Edcore again. As I said several years ago, it wasn't quite as clear cut as it is now. Their options weren't quite as good either. So now I get to eat my words. Yay. Price wise, this is a good price. $184. Let's see here. I use a 3 Series. 372JX is one that I use a lot. I don't know if they show their prices on here. They don't, but you can kind of see here what's going on. It's a 300, 300. It's got a 50 volt tap. Multiple voltages here. I believe it will allow you to do 240. Maybe not on this particular one, but I think there is one that will allow you to. There is a way to do it. I know that. But let's look up and see what a 372J costs. JX, I believe it was. Not JZ. Yeah, there we go, Hammond. What are they going? 178. So it's a little bit cheaper. If you get it from DigiKey, it's 206. Hawk Electronics. If you're going to buy Transformers, buy them from Hawk. Do keep this in mind. Hawk Electronics, I don't know how, but if Antique Electronics Supply sells it for $220 or $210, they're selling it for $180. It's like always about $20 cheaper. Where it starts to hurt is the shipping, but you can kind of see how they give you quantity deals here. So if I could buy 100 of these, I could save another $10 per unit, which would save me about $1,000 over the cost of that 100 of them that I bought. So $1,000, you can imagine I could, that's almost another 10 of the damn things. Not quite 10. What, 5? Something like that, 5.5? I don't do good with maths, but you can see. Dude, get on with the freaking Mothership and Soldano build. Okay, so you got Edcores on that one. Good. I wanted to hit you up about that, whatchamacallit, the effects loop. I know that you got 2 different versions of the effects loop. I wanted to hear more about that too. But I know you will tell. I've been looking for your things. I am subscribed. So Riley, for those of you who do not know, also does some builds as well. You're in like England somewhere, right? Like not Sheffield, but somewhere in like the depths of England, right? Or is it Eastern England? I can't remember. I know you're buried in there somewhere. So yeah, there's all kinds of, so getting back to you, Dustin, about building, you can provide 240 from a 120 volt plug. It's not wise. I wouldn't suggest doing it. Liverpool, that's right. My apologies. Oh, cool. Oh, the Granger schematic. Okay, yeah. Granger's popular out that direction, I think. Even Granger's, are they American? I can't remember. I know that it's an American site, but Granger amps. There it is. Yeah, it looks like an American site, but so you had to ship that stuff your way, huh? That sucks. Why not Modulus? Doesn't Modulus sell the same stuff? I know Modulus is all like European. I would love to order more stuff from them, but it's not. It's kind of like Tube Town. Tubetown, I mean, they have some cool stuff, but it's almost impossible to get it here at a reasonable rate. But, so yeah, let me show you where I shop. So you saw one of the spots. If you're going to buy Transformers, Hawk Electronics is one of those places to go. But let's look at some of the other spots. That's Mr. Cavalier calling me right there. He probably wants me to come over because tomorrow is my birthday. And thank you, open. All right, so Antique. It's not Antique Electronic Supply anymore. What do they call themselves now? Amplified Parts. They recently, I don't know why, they were two different companies at one point and then they converged into one. But I kind of am bummed because all of my stuff, all of my history and everything that I had through Amplified Parts or through Antique Electronic Supply was with Antique Electronic Supply. They said that everything was going to move over with Amplified Parts. It didn't quite go that way. But in either case, this is where I go to buy most all of my stuff. So when I say most all of my stuff, I mean most all of my stuff. Capacitors, you can go by brand, it's etc. They've added a couple new ones. They didn't used to have Vishay, now they do. So if you want Vishay, you can get Vishay. And you can see, they're not that expensive for Vishay. Vishay's great. There's nothing wrong with Vishay. So you don't have to spend stupid money to get, you know, good parts. This is a Vishay Otterstein. There's nothing wrong with these. They will work, and they will work just fine. Not a fan of the orange drops, either in Vishay or literally the orange drop brand. But let's clear this and let me show you what I mean by retarded expensive. So $4.99 is the starting point. $12.99 is the starting point. And it goes up from there. $24, $16, right? Same over here. Like, you can go crazy if you want. $15. You can kind of see how it adds up pretty quick. That's why I say the average price is like generally between $6 and $10. Don't even get rolling on these Bumblebee frickin' things. They start at $30 a piece and they go up from there. $35.95 for a single, come on. And that's paper and oil. I'm not a fan of paper and oil, but whatever. If you have to have Jupiter, oh, thank you, Justin. I appreciate that. I'm going to be 46 tomorrow. I'll be 46. I'm getting up there in age. I like F&T. F&T makes great stuff, but you can kind of see it starts about $4, and then by the time you get the stuff that you actually want, it's like $9 or $10, right? And these are the 500 volts. I like using the 500 volts, and I usually go with 47 UF. It's a little bit difficult with F&T to get much above the 47 UF at that voltage. At that point, you're kind of stuck with going with Sprag, I believe it is. And Sprag doesn't have the same problem that they used to. The only problem is they don't really sell them here. MOD also gets up there a little bit. I'm not a fan of MOD though. 100 UF at $350, 80 UF at 100, or at 500, $5.49. Like, that's not bad. That's a great price. So MOD again is less expensive than some of the other ones out there. I'm just not a fan of them. I don't like the look of them more than anything. But I use the Sozo stuff, and it starts at $4.30, and you can see it's just kind of $4 to $6, $4 to $7, whatever. These ones are a little more expensive. I haven't used these yet, and I bought a whole set worth. They only have like 4 or 5 sizes, so I bought a whole set of these. I will use them at some point. I haven't yet. I like using these. I use these all the time. These are what I use in my designs for anything that's, well, for most of my silver mica positions. These things are not cheap. $10, 5. So some of them are just more expensive than the others. But you don't have to go there. If you don't want to go stupid expensive, let's see here. Not Cornell. Right here. These are the cheap ones. $1.25, right? And I've used these before. There's nothing wrong with them. I have a whole series of them, and they work. Whatever. I am not a fan of the orange drops, though. Do they even have them here? I don't think they do. Yeah, they do. Orange drop. They're not expensive necessarily, but I'm just not a fan of them. I don't know. They just don't do it for me. I don't see the value in them. They've come down in price, actually. They used to be about $7 a pop. That's not the case anymore, which is kind of interesting. I think it's the 715p series that most people don't like, or is it the 716? I can't remember. One of these series isn't as popular as the other one. You got bastard. I've noticed yes, I do not like tone stacks. So there's a reason for that. So tone stacks are very lossy. When I say lossy, that means that they eat up all kinds of gain. So I think it's something in the range of like a Fender Marshall Vox, you know, the treble middle bass that you're used to seeing. I think they drop something in the neighborhood of like 30 dB, which is quite a bit. That is a noise floor worth of gain right there, which means that you almost always have to use makeup gain after, which means that you must have some sort of a stage after it to make up the gain. Some people put them just before the phase inverter, which is non-incidental because a long-tail pair, I should say, a long-tail pair has gain, so it kind of does the makeup gain for you, but it reacts different there than it does earlier in the circuit. But if you put it earlier in the circuit, the next stage, the following stage after the tone stack, is generally going to be a like a makeup gain stage. It's not really going to distort or do anything of much good other than re-amplifying the signal that comes out. The other thing that sucks about tone stacks, at least in my experience and in my opinion, is that there is no nominal, really. Like, that whole set everything at noon thing is bull crap to me. If you think about it, you're setting everything at noon, which means you're dumping half the gain, right? Out of each and every single one of those. But you never end up with an actual flat or linear output, right? What goes in is not what comes out. You usually end up getting some sort of a mid-range scoop that's built into it. And another thing that kind of sucks about them is generally if you turn them all the way up to get all the gain that previous stage would have had, it doesn't sound very good. You'll notice it's generally a lot brighter, thinner sounding, and you get all your mids and your highs back, but the lows never kind of seem to match up with it. Oh, you're welcome, dude. That's what these channels are for. So, and Lederman's back. Yay! You're supposed to be over here, Andy. You know that, right? Yeah, right? No, you needed to be here. You didn't have stuff to do. You needed to be here. I know you're getting to work on that amp, though. You need to get to work on that. You need to do it. Like, you should have it done tonight, right? I'm going to be getting off here pretty soon. There's not much more I can really yip about, but I was kind of going over how I'm not a fan of tone stacks. Now, what some companies do, a la Marshall, many others, there's lots, but they use a cathode follower to drive the tone stack, which helps reduce some of the loss that the tone stack has. So I don't like cathode followers. That's a me thing. It's a me thing. That's all there is to it. I don't like cathode followers. To me, it's a waste of half a tube, to be honest. But we'll talk about that deeper in some other video. Just know that they have a purpose, and the purpose that they are meant to do really doesn't have much to do with amplifying guitar signal that much. It's to compensate for some other deficiency. That's my evil way of putting it anyway. But so yeah, I use separate tone stacks. I also don't like the interaction of your typical Fender, Marshall Vox tone stack either. So if you change one setting a little bit, it has an effect on the other two. It's just the nature of the beast. Duncan, I think it's the Duncan tone stack calculator. I think it's still downloadable. I can't remember where you can get it from, but that's what it was called, was the Duncan tone stack calculator. And you could actually change all the values and change different things and whatnot to see how it would affect the tone controls. What happened if you turn this one up and turn that one down, or this, that, and the other. It would show you what the sonic output would be. But I don't know. I don't like that aspect of them either, that they are interactive. I like non-interactive. So I usually put the bass control up at the front of the amp where I think it's the most efficient, or whatever. And I didn't really get to you at the beginning of the chat, but you need to get busy on that amp, bro. I know you said you haven't really played or done any work, but you got to get to work. Get some done, man. You got to play. So yeah, I like splitting the tone controls up so they're on different parts of the amp. So I usually do the bass first, and when I say bass first, I probably should do it over here because that's what you're looking at me the other direction. But so the low end gets cut early in the scheme of things. I don't usually use a mid-range control. Mid-range controls are pretty lossy, and I kind of like having the mids to punch through. I like having strong balls. I like balls. And then the high control, like, that one's a challenge because there's multiple ways to do it. I just do it later. I just like doing it later in the amps. It just seems to work well for me, so that's where I generally do it. The James Baxendall is actually even more lossy than the FMV tone stacks. So technically with the Baxendall / James tone circuit, I would go with the James circuit first if I was going to do one that had an interactive thing, and just plan on having, you know, 2 tubes dedicated to it, one to drive it and one to recover from it. That's just how that one has to be done. It's more or less meant to be an active tone control. But what's nice about the James / Baxendall circuit, I believe if you do it and tune it correctly for your amp or what you're working with, you can actually get flat control or flat, you know, frequency response. You can actually get a mid-range hump with it as well. And you can, of course, do your, you know, high shift, low shift. You can get like a tilt style EQ depending on how you set the things. No. So turret boards made out of G10, which is this kind of material here. I get the pre-perforated stuff. I like it. It works well for me, but it's, I don't know if it'll focus on it. It'll focus on my ugly ass hands, but it's like a fiberglass type of material. It doesn't conduct. It's non-conductive, and it's not like the wax impregnated fiber boards that come in Fenders and some other designs. I am not a fan of the wax impregnated fiber boards. If you are anywhere near the ocean or in places where there's high levels of humidity, over time the wax will start to dry out, and then if there's humidity in the air, it will ingress into the cardboard or whatever the fiber material that they use is, and it will actually make things conductive, which means you can actually catch voltages from a point here and a point over there that this point over here is not supposed to see any kind of voltage whatsoever. So that kind of stuff can happen. So I steer very, very clear of eyelet boards with any kind of wax impregnation. I like using these solid 3mm G10 pre-perforated. I like the pre-perforated stuff. So this is the board that I'm actually going to use in that Ignator build that we're calling the, or dubbing the Undertaker at the moment. We'll probably do a vote on what it's actually going to be named later, but for whatever. So, uh-oh. Yeah. So it's not that the interactive tone stacks are bad. It's not that they're bad, because there is a lot of tone shaping that you can do. You can get no bass, or you can have too much bass. You can have the scooped mid sound if you're into that. You can get the really high or really dark kind of thing. So that's what's good about them, is that they do have that big tonal palette. I guess my thing about it is you can't, it's really hard to have not a one-trick pony. It's really hard to have your cake and eat it too. So it's not like you're going to have a Fender that sounds like an Engel. It's not like you're going to have a Fender that sounds like a Diesel. It's not like you're going to have a Fender that sounds like my Woody back there, right? Or Marshall, whatever. You know what I mean? Like there's whatever that disparity and difference in the circuits are. It changes things enough that there is a limitation to how far you can go with all those tonal controls. So yes, it is nice because it does make it more versatile, but I don't know. I haven't found a need really. Honestly, the best thing I found, let's see, where did I put that freaking thing? If you really want to get into tone control, the best spot to do it is in front of the amp. Let's see if I can get a freaking thing out to clean these things up a little bit. My apologies. These have been sitting out in the shop for a bit, and they are a bit dusty. So this is my B board that we're about to check out here. When I say my B board, I have an A and a B board. This is my B board. B board being small. So I have a Dark Sun for my reverb and delay. I use a Keeley compressor. I'm not a fan of this as much as as good as it is, I'm not a fan of it. It does something weird. This guy here, the Baby Timmy, worth every penny. Get one. This is like a 2-rock, I don't know, the Coral or something like that is what it's based off of. It works, it's cool, whatever. But this guy right here, this little EQ, even this little cheap one right here. If you're gonna do EQ and you want to get it done and do it right, at the front of the chain is the place to do it. Right here with this thing here, you have more tonal control and just more everything than you can possibly have with your, Fender Marshall Vox tone stack. Well, yeah, there is that. That's a slippery slope though, Dustin. So to what you want, right? Which means it's filling your flavor now, which most amps only fill your flavor right now, but that's not to say it doesn't fill out your flavor maybe later on. He did make one that had two 30-band EQs in it. So imagine one of these with 30 dials across the thing. He had 2 of those built into this amp. So that one you could do anything you wanted with, but that one, ask him about how much of a pain in the ass that was to build. It's really, really hard to have your cake and eat it too. So I try to leave the mids alone. And when I do control the mids, I build it into the circuit, which is to say that I will bypass highs, so you have more parent highs that just go on through the amp, and then you deal with it later with the high tone control. And then if you give more bass in a certain section of the amp, let's say, or earlier on or later on, you can actually kind of get it to have like a naturally kind of scooped sort of sound. It's not adjustable per se, but let's say you just roll down the highs a little bit and it levels out with the mids, and then you can make it darker. But since the mids never get touched, now you're working off of this relative thing where if you darken the amp, the mids don't move with it because I'm only adjusting the highs. And then you turn up the lows, and now you've got that tilt. Conversely, you turn down the lows, right? So the lows are a little bit lower. You turn up the highs, and the highs are up here. The mids don't shift, right? They stay kind of where they're at. So now you got to tilt in that direction. And then I try to make it so that way if you have the bass and the highs all the way up, that there is kind of just this small, I mean, I'm talking small. It's not a lot. Oh, thank you, my man. But you kind of have like a small natural scoop built into it. And to get kind of any kind of a mid-range hump to it, you just kind of turn the bass and the treble down and it leaves the mids in there, right? So it kind of works like a Baxendal, but it's not nearly as active and it's not nearly as, I don't know what the word for it is, but you know what I mean? It's not as emphasized, I guess is the term. But again, it's yes, you can build an amp to suit exactly what a player wants. You can. Very hard to do, especially if you're trying to make something that's not a one-off. I'm trying to make something that is, I want to build multiples of these. I don't want to build just one, you know what I mean? I don't want to spend my entire life just designing one amp every time. I want to try to have, like Dr. Z or some of these other companies out there where you have the lineup of amps and one of them is bound to tickle your fancy in one way or another. I'm sure that Orange Dark Tear is probably pretty cool. I think that one has kind of a Baxendal sort of tone circuit in it, if I'm not mistaken. The way it generates its distortion is a little different. I kind of like the way Orange does it. I sort of do it in one of my, a couple of my designs more or less. Orange likes to do it where they have a gain stage, and then in some of them, it depends. They have one that has like an early gain stage or an early tone stack type thing, but in a lot of them they have your input stage, and then they go into like a volume control that is on both sides of a set or a single tube. So they'll have a gain stage with a volume control on either side of it, and then that'll drive the next thing that's going on. Why do I like that? What's cool about it is it makes all the gain that enveloped stage has available, but because it's turning it down on both sides of that tube, you get a lot of range out of that gain. So you can go from clean to mean with it if you want. And if you put more stages inside of that envelope, you can still get a lot of distortion out of very, very little number of gain stages, but still have something that'll do a clean sound, a very good, a nice clean sound. But you can dial it all the way up and still get that pretty heavy stuff. The TH30, or I think it's the TH30. I think it's still their flagship head. Well, at least they said it was at one point. That's kind of how they do it. I believe they envelope either 2 stages or 1. I can't remember. Whatever it is. But they have a volume control that's a dual gain pot, and it envelopes whatever the gain stage is. Don't be fooled by the 7 or 15 watt thing. So what they're doing to do that, in most cases when they're doing that with those EL84 amps, is they're just turning it in, putting it into triode mode. Triode mode, you lose about half the wattage because you lose a lot of the efficiency that the screen grid of that pentode allows. So, I actually have a set of EL84s sitting around. All right, so in an EL84, it is a pentode, which is to say that there are 5 things going on in there. So you've got grid, you've got a control grid, you've got the plate, the screen grid, and the cathode, right? So you got all those different parts in there. That's the 5 elements that make it what it is. The screen grid is very, very important. The control grid does one thing. It helps keep the flow of electrons moving from the cathode towards the plate. But in between the plate and the control grid, and of course you got the grid itself, right? But in between those, you have a screen grid that's between the grid and the plate. That screen grid helps control secondary emission. Secondary emission is where the electrons shoot through the tube faster than that plate can grab them. So it just bounces off the plate. If you can imagine an electron going blink and not having anywhere to go. Like it doesn't know what to do, right? Well, it's just because the plate can't suck all those electrons in there and keep them flowing in that direction, right? I passed up sex for this. Sucks to be you. I might be listening out myself tonight at the rate things are going. Sometimes it's worth passing up. You got to keep her guessing. I didn't come in tonight, baby, because there was something better than you. Don't tell her that. So that screen grid is there, and it's just slightly less positive in terms of voltage than the plate is. So electrons flow from negative to positive. So if the cathode is the most negative thing in the tube, the electrons are going to shoot from the cathode up into the plate, right? Well, some of those electrons bounce off the plate, and that screen grid is there to try to keep them from falling further deeper into the tube, if you want to call it that. We'll just say it's deeper into the tube. But what it does is it helps keep that electron floating in that space so it can get sucked back up and do what it's supposed to do. So just imagine an electron shooting at the speed of light through that freaking tube. It bounces off the plate. The screen grid is there. It's just keeping that electron from going much further than it, and then it shoots back up again and completes its path from cathode to plate. What they do in order to turn your pentode into a triode is they take that screen grid and they connect it directly to the anode, right? So it's basically one and the same. All your efficiency goes away because any electron that bounces off the plate and doesn't get sucked into it just now floats off into space inside the vacuum of that tube. And that's not crazy freaking pixie fairy dust talk. That's literally what happens is the electron just fades into some other space within that tube. Maybe it gets sucked back up into the plate, maybe it doesn't. But what you can say is that it is not contributing to the output power any longer. right? So that blue glow that you see in a tube is because the tube is slightly gassy enough. There's just enough oxygen in there that you can actually see that electron glowing as it bombards around through the gas. So that blue glow that you actually see in a tube is not good because that is literally wasted energy coming off as heat. The blue glow are electrons that did not get sucked into the plate. So that's what that is. You'll notice too that if you play in a dark room and you look at the amp when you turn it up all the way, at idle, it'll have this big blue glow. And you give it the karang and you'll see it suck in, like the blue glow will kind of go away a little bit. That is literally because there's not as much electron flow because the sag of the voltage supply is going down to the point where the flow of electrons from the cathode to the plate kind of meets what state that tube can handle, right? It's kind of like natural compression, if you will. It's kind of how it all works. It's fun stuff. So blue glow is not actually as good as, or as cool as people think it is. Oh, you just want to get a piece. I see how you are. I'm not going to cock block you though. If you got to get some, dude, you better go nibble on her neck a little bit. Talk sweet nothings into her ear. Tell her sweet nothings. Baby, I love you. I love you so much. I even ditched my friend for you. All right, so yeah, the connecting the screen grid to the anode basically turns it into a triode, which means it loses efficiency, therefore power. That's how you get that 7 and 15 watt thing that goes on. In larger amps, when I say larger amps, I mean amps that have like 4 tubes in them, more than 2. Oftentimes what they'll do is they'll just turn a pair of the tubes off. Yeah, whoa. So again, same. You turn a couple tubes off, you got half the tubes doing the work, less power. Makes sense? So there's a bunch of different ways to kind of do the half power thing, but triode sounds different than pentode. It has the efficiency curve, or the curve that it has, completely changes, and the way it distorts is totally different. Yada yada, XYZ, the whole 9. I have a nifty amp design out now. You haven't seen it yet. I am going to show it to you. It's called the Atlas. It is off getting tested right now. Getting flogged, as I call it. That one is actually using a pentode in the preamp. So it's using a pentode tube in the preamp. It's an EF86. And I am bombarding it with gain that is coming from a 12AX7. And it does have pentode distortion, if you want to call it that. Which is it kind of gives it a distortion that's akin to output section distortion, but you are actually able to get pentode distortion in whatever. Yeah, everything converts into heat. Yes, exactly that. Whenever you're sending an electron out that's not going anywhere, it's going as heat. It's just making that glass hotter and hotter. And that's the only thing that really kills tubes, is just the heat. I mean, the things run at like just short of catching paper on fire. I haven't like done deep measurements on them, but 345 degrees, it's, probably pretty close to where it's sitting. I'm sure they get hotter than that if you actually get right up on the glass and touch it, but what is the word? It's definitely hotter than 300 degrees. Now the preamp tubes are not quite that hot. So when I say preamp tubes, I'm talking about these little baby 12AX7 type tubes. So power tube, preamp tube, right? Let's see if I can get it out. I've moved things around and I've blocked my path. Power tube, preamp tube. Guess which one of these has more snot, right? So this guy's running hot. This guy, you can, even when these things are running as hot as they possibly can, you can put your fingers on it. It's not going to burn you. It might get to it'll get north of 100 degrees, but it won't be so hot that it'll burn you on these little preamp tubes. That's just these ones. I'm not talking about all of them. There are different preamp tubes, and different preamp tubes run at different temperatures. But to give you an idea, here is a GT, this is groove tubes. This came out of an amp, and you can see how hot it got. Like, this thing got cooked. You can just see how the color is different. So it's hot enough to burn the paint off. These JJs I have here, it's interesting too. I forgot I had this set. I can't remember where I got them from. They're new too. Here's an EZ81. This is a rectifier. Looks just like the, EL84, but you'll notice that these ones here are not nearly as burned up. These are pretty new though. But my tubes, I run them in a way, I don't know how to quantify it or show it. I run lower voltages. So with lower voltages, you have generally a little bit less heat, but more current flow. So I'm asking the cathode to do more work than most other companies would ask of that cathode to do. I find it to be non-incidental. My idea behind it is that if you take the onus off of one side and move it to the other, all right, you're kind of squeezing that window down a little bit in terms of wear and tear on that device. Because if you think of it this way, if you stuff 400 volts on a device that's really only meant to have 300 volts, it's gonna run hot. It's gonna burn the paint off, and it's not gonna last very long. It's gonna convert all that voltage into heat. Now, again, voltage, current, there's always that exchange, and that's true in all analog devices like this. If you have more voltage, you're probably gonna have less current. It works that way for tubes for sure. So I run them at a slightly lower voltage, which asks more current to come in through the cathode. The cathodes are not the weak point on these things. It's always the anodes that go. The screen grid and the anode are the things that burn up. So if you design it just right, you can get it into a point where it's not running that hot, comparatively anyway. And I feel that it lasts a little bit longer. The low noise JJs yet? Honest to God, I don't bother with that crap. I get them boxes at a time, and I just use the 12AX7s. They're all the standard stuff. I have a bunch of rando tubes in here. I got mostly all JJs. Yeah, there's an 83. Yeah, there's another JJ. I got a lot of JJs. I use JJs. I don't get the special ones. Now, the only one that I did get that was special from JJ was my EF86. I'm just pulling it out of one of my other designs right now. This is an EF86, and you can see here I got the gold one. Kind of disappointed in this one, to be honest. I have two of these. I have this one, which is the gold one, and then I have the other one that's in the Atlas, which is gone right now, so I don't have the tube to pull out. But, it doesn't have the gold pins like this one does. It's just normal. I kind of like the other one better than this one. This one has something going on with it. It's not that it's a bad thing. It's not unstable. It doesn't cause any problems. It's just got more of a brightness or a kerrang to it. I don't know how to explain it really. It's hard to quantify, but it's just got more of a kerrang to it. And that makes it pokier, which kind of takes some of the fun out of it. I don't know. So no, I don't mess around too much with it. I guess now is a good time to explain why I go with the JJs en masse and why I don't bother with it. Of all the tube companies out there, all right, there's only about 3 or 4 out there that make tubes. There's PS Vane now, is kind of new to the list, but JJ is like the one that every freaking time if you buy it, what it is, all right? There's a 33.33% chance that any other tube that you buy is probably a JJ anyway. So if you buy, I don't know if it's Solvtech or I can't remember what that other brand is. There's other ones out there, but if let's say you buy a Fender branded or a Mesa branded or a Ruby tubes or something from Tube Amp Doctor or whatever it might be. If it's a branded tube and it doesn't say JJ on it, there's a 33% chance it's a JJ. All right. Hey, Phantom, how's it going, dude? It's all marketing. Yeah. All right. So a lot of people will say that the JJ's like weak, quiet, not as high gain, not this, not that, whatever. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't spent the time to deal with it. What I can say is if mollards are hotter, and obviously so hotter, there is problems with that because there's more noise, less stability, because if the tube is running that hot, there's the chance that it can go into self-oscillation or have other problems because it's got more gain that it's pushing down the line. So my finding is that if you design an amp around a tube that has all those hot tubes in there, so let's say you get all of the mollards, right? So now you've designed your amp to work with a set of tubes that are really, really hot. What's going to happen when you swap that whole set out for a pair of these, or a set of these, right? That amp is going to, absolutely, it's going to sound like dog shit, right? Because it's going to have half the gain. It's not going to sound anywhere near the same. It's not going to have the oomph that it used to have, right? Conversely, if we know that JJ is not the worst tube that you can possibly buy, and it's not super duper low output, if you don't try to flog it to within an inch of its life, chances are pretty good that you can put a higher gain in there, the higher gain tube, mollards, and your amp's not going to go into salient oscillation. Your amp's going to, not going to go AWOL and try to leave the reservation, right? It's just not going to get into an uncontrollable mess. So my thought process is simple. If I design it with a tube that I know is of reasonable quality, reasonable gain, middle of the road everything, if it sounds good with that, there's no reason why it shouldn't sound good with the mollards. There's no reason why it shouldn't sound good with some other brand out there. And even if you put some dog shit tubes in there, tubes that we know are absolutely dog shit, it's probably going to sound okay because it's not designed, within an inch of its life on either end. That's all. All right. Well, what is that saying? I think John actually said it once before in one of these streams, but it was more or less that the best thing that you have is right there in front of you. You just need to learn how to make it work. I don't know. My thing about it is ubiquity. So I'm not trying to use ultra rare, hard to find parts. I'm not trying to use something that's not going to be here in 20 years. JJ's making tubes en masse today. Inarguably going to be around for a while. Inarguably has been around for a long while. And inarguably reasonable, right? They're not hyper expensive. They're not hyper cheap pieces of dog shit. They're right up the middle. Perfect. That's a win. For me, that's a win. So that's why I design my amps around them. Can they sound better? Sure. You can do whatever the hell you want. You buy that damn amp, you can put whatever fucking tubes you want in there. If you think it's going to sound better with a pair of NOSs, by all means, if it sounds good with these tubes, why wouldn't it, right? I mean, I can polish a turd. I just don't want to play guessing games with it. And even Andy has been talking about it lately where he's saying that, going with the mollards is kind of bitting him a bit. Because, yeah, they have more gain. They kind of have that thump to them. But it's, you end up with problems because you have a tube that is just like running just a little too hot. It's a little too snappy. A little too this, a little too that. And they are noisier. And I don't like noise. I like clean and quiet. Like, I don't have buzz in my amps. I don't have hum. I don't have excessive amounts of hiss, even at full gain or whatever. We'll get to see all that stuff later once I actually get these things done and start showcasing them a little bit more. But, we'll kind of quantify all of that. But the end all be all is that I'm just trying to make an amp that suits somebody's fancy somewhere by having stuff that goes from literally clean up to mean. And my most recent designs are definitely a little bit meaner, a little more ornery. Okay, yeah, okay. So have you tried them yet, though, Riley? The tongue soles? I'm not against it. I'm not saying I never will. I'm just, I have a stock of RCAs and like NOS tubes available to me, and I have used several of them in my builds over the years. They just, what's the word for it? It's hit or miss. Some of them work, some of them are noisy. None of them, of the 10 or 15 that I've played with over the years, not one has ever stood out to me as being like, oh my God, like that's God gifts to tubes. And you know, these are like the RCAs and the Phillips and stuff like that. I don't know if I have any in my stash right here, but it doesn't look like I do. I put them away in another spot, but whatever. 15 amp determines capacity. Well, I wouldn't say that's true either. 15 amp breaker, you can pull 20 amps through it for a few minutes. It's all about the heating. So the watts is the problem. It's the heating. In commercial electronics, everything's based off of your source. So you can run a 100 amp breaker into a 50 amp breaker, and from the 50 amp breaker you can go into your 15 amp breaker or whatever. But you can't go from a 15 amp breaker into a 100 amp breaker, right? And the wire gauges and stuff like that. There was this test, I can't remember what it was. Somebody tried to do one of those trick questions, like if you have a 100 amp service here and you daisy chain 2 boxes, and let's say one's a 50 amp and the other one's a 50 amp, what are you actually rated at? And the truth is you're rated at 50 amps because the next biggest box in line has 50 amps or something like that. But you would think that because you have 2 50 amp boxes and the actual source is 100 amp, why wouldn't you be able to use, yeah, all that stupid shit. I don't know. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a lampy, as they call us, or them, I should say. So doing sound or whatnot, I was on the audio team, right? So I was usually an A1 or an A2 or something like that. But then you have the lampies, which are the lighting crew. And so you have, you know, LD1, LD2, yada, 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 light designer and all that jazz. Those are usually the electricians. The lampies are always the electricians, it seems. They pulled the short stick. Because there's nothing quite like pulling out, you know, 1-aught or even 2-aught or something like that, and then running hundreds and hundreds of feet of that crap times 5, and having to run out to freaking 3 or 4 isolation transformers from a freaking trailer that has I don't know, at least a megawatt worth of service or something in it. There's a couple gigs I've been to where the path of these cables, I shit you not, they're bigger than some people's wrists, you know, like the 0-aught shit. You know, there's a row of those, like a road width wide, so like 10 or 12 foot wide of these cables all nicely laid out with cable, you know, truck track and all that stuff. Like whoever pulled that stick, sucks to be you, because it wasn't me. So I had those, the C90s. I wasn't a fan of them. I don't know what they're supposed to be, kind of a whatchamacallit, an homage to, but yeah, I got rid of them. I sold them. I had them in my Seymour, you can't see it, whatever. The Seymour Duncan cabinets, when I bought them initially, that's what they came with. I didn't like them. They were a little too honky for me. They didn't quite have the low-end snot I wanted to, so. 1500 watts is max, yeah. I think what speakers and cabinets is. Yes. Yes, I would definitely say that. I don't want to say it makes up a solid 50%. Part of it is the feel of the amp. So while I kind of feel like the tonal aspect or tonal qualities of your amplifier are almost entirely tied to the cabinet that you're using, you're still going to have some of the feel. Like if the cabinet is your quotient, right? The thing that never changes, and you take this head and you take that head and you take that amp and you take that, whatever, you take 4 different amps. They're going to sound relatively the same sonically, perhaps, close anyway. But the character, a little bit of the character and the feel that it has is what's going to change. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's the heating though. So when you're heating up a 15 amp breaker versus your 100 amp main, even with the dead short, the 15 amp is going to go first. And I think it's designed that way on purpose. you definitely don't want to be shorting out and breaking your main breaker every time a circuit goes tits up. I've never, I don't know. The unfortunate thing is the C90s that I had came in a cabinet that they weren't designed for, or they didn't come in initially anyway. They were used speakers. As I recall, they were a little bit beat up, so they were well used, definitely 90s era, but just didn't sound good in the cabinets. And unfortunately, as much as I like these 1x12 Seymour Duncan cabs I have, they're 1x12 and they're ported. So they got this little like 3-inch port that's built into the front of the thing. They're very persnickety about what speakers in them. I put some greenbacks in there, sounded like dog ass. I put the G12H in there, sounded like dog ass. As of right now, the best sounding speakers that I've had in that, whoo, good God, it's a real show now. My apologies, that was rude. Sorry, excuse me. But the best sounding speaker I've had in them so far has been the Creamback M65. So the G12 M65 Creambacks. They sound like shit closed back. Maybe so. That might be it. These aren't open back cabinets either, so that could explain some of it. I don't know. I haven't come across enough money to really experiment with this stuff until recent years. If I didn't build guitar amplifiers, I'd have a much nicer collection behind me. Let me tell you. Because I wouldn't have traveled to Sweden and stuff like that. That trip to Sweden and this trip to see my in-laws and whatnot, this must have been rough on Daddy Luke over here. But I haven't had that kind of income to really expend on that kind of stuff. So I've always bought secondhand, and it's always been, less than desirable secondhand. I end up with a lot of the oddball stuff. So I've got a triple X 4x12 cabinet, which, whatever, it's kind of like a Marshall, like a Mesa, whatever. It's, slant cab, whatever. I have a Hughes and Kettner 2x12, which is a ported design. It's a very interesting cabinet. It sounds good. It's just different. It has like this thing about it. It's kind of open sounding. It's got these ginormous ports in it. It's unique cab. Sounds great with the G12Ms, the greenbacks. It's just got that woody sound to it, which is kind of cool. Interestingly enough, one of the cabinets I own is a pile of dog shit. I think it's made by American Speaker Company or something like that. They're not even in business anymore. That's how cheap. It's MDF, as far as I can tell. Maybe it's not. I don't know. It's a pile of absolute dog doo-doo. But it doesn't matter what freaking speaker I put in it. It sounds great in this cabinet. And it's a closed back cab. But whatever speaker I've ever put in it, sans the ones that originally came in it, sound freaking tits. Right now I have it loaded up with the G12H Anniversary Series ones, the 30 waters. Those sound great in there. I like them a lot in that cabinet. So, I don't know. Just depends. It's all kinds of depends. What's that gentleman that did that freaking video where he made like every conceivable like cabinet size and layout and whatnot? Like literally it turned out to be like 100 of these things or 90 of them or something like that. I can't remember his name, but either way, he was saying that there was like 11 different things that really kind of created the sound, but it was marginal at best on really what it was that differentiated them. But it kind of seems to me that the non-structured, not adhering to Thiel small parameters and not adhering to all the math aspects of building cabinetry, it's kind of what makes guitar cabinets so cool, if you will. I mean, it's pretty freaking cool when you can get 10 different cabinets and each one of them, even loaded with the same speaker, all sound different. Yeah. But that makes the tonal palette like infinite. It doesn't matter what amp you got. You change the cabinet, it's going to change the character enough that, tonally speaking anyway, you can go from A to B. So the hope is in the near future, I'll stop building more amps and spending all my money on the R&D for those and spend a little bit more time. Yeah, the G12H 30th. Yeah, those ones. I have a pair of those. I like them. They're pretty cool. I like the bite that they have on the upper end. They still got that woodiness of like a G12M, but they got a little more, they got like that boutique-y kind of poke, if you will. That honk, I guess that they, I don't know. I like it. It works. But in either case, you guys, it is 8 o'clock now here. I've been at this for, what are we doing on now? 2 hours and 56 minutes. We're running up on 3 hours. Holy hell. Daddy's getting tired. And like spent electrons up there, I might get to go and get some birthday loving myself. Probably not, but we're not putting money on anything. But I kind of think we've come to full circle on this one. We had some good talk. I'm loving how you guys have been interacting this whole time. This is great. So S8s. Oh, okay. 8-inch monitors are great. If you can afford 8-inch monitors, those definitely do the job for you. Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't doubt it. I don't have, whoa. But I've had the same pair of Tapco 5-inch for probably 20 years now. They've done me really well. Like, some of my best mixes have come out on those things. They're not great by any means, but whatever it is that they do, it just seems to work. 8 inches are nice though. If you can get 8-inch things, you don't need a sub. I guess that's the big thing, is not needing a sub. When you have to start getting a sub involved, that's where things kind of start to fall apart again. Getting full range sound out of one speaker is kind of, I think, where it's at. So yeah, I would agree. Those KRKs, I don't think KRK is around anymore. I think KRK used to be based out of Santa Barbara, which is basically where I live. But in either case, I don't think they're around anymore. And if they are, it's not the same company anymore. I think they either got bought out, sold out, or whatever. So yeah, those Yamahas are nice. Samson makes some nice stuff. Adamson, I think is it Adams or Adamson? I can't remember. Dustin, I think we all need to go back to the ye old bedroom and caveman our wives, and put lay some pipe. Let's go lay some pipe, everybody. Let's call this sausage fest a freaking night, and we'll see you on the next one. So thank you all so much for coming in. I'm probably not going to do anything for at least another week or more. But yeah, definitely go into your bedroom and tell the wife, let's go. It's time. Thank you guys. See you next time.